I would encourage anyone, if they can, to save more money than they think they'll need. More money does equal more flexibility on trail. And when you get home, I think it's kind of both are really important. If something happens, if you have to skip around a fire closure, if you have to wait out snow melt, if you get an injury, if you get sick, having money in those situations allows you to make more decisions. It broadens your capability to roll with the punches. And then when you get home too, it can really be really hard to adjust to after trail life.
Yeah, post-trail depression is a very real thing. And to your point, if you have to just jump at the first job offered to you, like that can make for a really difficult adjustment. Welcome to Backpacker Radio, presented by The Trek, brought to you by LMNT. I am your co-host, Zach Badger Davis. Sitting to my right is...
Hi, I'm Juliana Chauncy, a.k.a. Chaunce.
Few reminders, will be quick here. One is if you're taking on a long-distance trek in 2026 and you haven't already applied, apply to be a trek blogger. Tons of perks. I've been over 1,000 times. You get discounted gear, access to a private community of thru-hikers. You get to be Jess Stone's best friend. And we're going to fly out one person, trek contributor, to join us right here on Backpacker Radio at year's end. That's great. Next this is one I don't usually plug, but I should, because if you want the best from the trek, that's the Trek's newsletter, specifically the weekly newsletter. We include all of our best featured content, a few standout blogger posts. This is also the place that you'd go to get notifications for gear giveaways and new jobs that we're releasing. So if you want all of the best from the Trek into one tiny, cute little package, head to the link in the show notes to get the Trek's newsletter. I can't talk about that.
Okay.
But good question. And last but not least is if you want to support the show, you can do so patreon.com/backpackerradio. Chaunce?
We do have a very specific stipulation about this, which came to light this week, courtesy of Zach. If you are going to be a Patreon supporter, which we love, we've been saying $5 a month and telling you all the things that are equivalent that you could get for that price. Make sure you are being a Patreon supporter through the Patreon app or website, not through...
Well, preferably not through the app if you're on an iPhone.
Yeah, not through the iPhone
app.
Go
you
log
can
in.
From your iPhone, you can go to patreon.com/backpackerradio and you won't get the upcharge unless it tries to force you onto the app. Moral of the story is go to the website in any capacity that you can.
Yeah, if you see that it was a boat floater, that's $5 a month.
Yeah, I think all of the subscription options are upcharged by in the range of like 30%.
Yeah, I'm just giving them an example. Like boat floaters should be $5 a month. If you're trying to become a Patreon and you notice that it says $7.50 a month, don't do that, because Apple is apparently adding an upcharge of $2.50 to a $5 subscription, which is, in my opinion, egregious and gross. So if you see that, do it directly through the website. That way you can still support your favorite podcast and we can help you not pay extra to the man.
Yeah. Good call out. I would have forgot that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big upcharge.
Yes, it is. I don't know what the upcharge is on the other two levels, but also going to be not good, I'm guessing.
50%.
Yeah. But also Patreon, you get every episode advertisement free. I don't know if we said that.
Yes.
If you're the sort of person that likes that, that's where that is.
Yes. When you sweat, you lose a lot more than water. You're burning through sodium, potassium, magnesium, all the stuff your body needs to keep going strong on trail, thinking clearly, and sleeping well at night. That's why I'm a huge fan of LMNT. It's a zero-sugar electrolyte mix with a science-backed ratio that's heavy on sodium, which is exactly what thru-hikers and long-distance backpackers are losing all day long. No sugar, no junk, just what your body actually needs. When I'm backpacking, I'll usually drink one LMNT throughout the day and then have another packet before bed. It helps me rehydrate, keeps the leg cramps away, and I'll wake up feeling like $1 million. Another underrated benefit, LMNT makes those dodgy water sources actually taste good. If you've ever filtered from a silty creek, a cow tank, or some lukewarm pipe coming out of the ground, you know how clutch that is. It's not just an on-trail thing either. LMNT is my go-to hangover prevention tool. One packet before bed, another in the morning, and you wake up hitting the erase button on a night of bad decisions. My favorites are lemonade, raspberry, and citrus. A cold LMNT lemonade on a hot day tastes like absolute heaven. And the citrus works shockingly well as a no-calorie mix-in for a backcountry margarita, perfect while car camping, or the lazy version at home. Good news, Backpacker Radio listeners can score a free LMNT sample pack with any drink mix purchase by going to drinklmnt.com/thetrek. That sample pack includes citrus salt, raspberry salt, watermelon salt, and orange salt. 2 stick packs of each flavor, 8 total. No coupon code needed. Just use the URL. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/thetrek to get 8 free packets with any drink mix purchase. The deal is only available for a limited time.
Let's get to today's panel. This is going to be tips for through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail. This is the second edition of it. Edition 1 is also our third panelist and someone we haven't had on the podcast here for a hot minute. You know her very well. It's Elise, a.k.a. SOS, a.k.a. Sauce. I'll give the short bio here. Elise is a long-distance hiker, runner, fisherwoman, and writer who has thru-hiked the PCT, CDT, Teton Crest Trail, Wind River High Route, and much more. Sauce, good to have you back.
It's great to be here.
How's life?
It's good. Well, it's chaotic. I don't know. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Last year's been kind of wild, but I'm hanging in there.
You're hanging in there.
Yeah.
Headline event is recently married.
Yes. Yep. We got married in September. It was very fun. Planning a wedding was like the hardest thing I've ever done, probably, but it was worth it, was my takeaway. So
Where'd you get
I
married?
know in Dillon, Colorado, on the reservoir up there. There's a campground you can rent, and yeah, we got married at Windy Point Campground.
Nice.
Hell yeah. How many people?
Ooh, I think it ended up being. My mom got a little involved with the guest list and it
As
blew
they
up
do.
a
As
little
moms
bit
do.
more
As
than
they do.
That's how moms
we
operate.
had anticipated, but I think we ended up having like around 100
Nice.
people there.
Oh, wow. At a
Yeah.
campsite, you can have that many.
Yeah, it's got like a big pavilion. That was my big stress actually. I was like, Mom, if we have these people, we're gonna have to like maybe rent another tent, and there's not like a great spot for it. But we ended up fitting everybody. There's like everybody just like sat at picnic tables and stuff, and yeah, there's a pretty big pavilion there. So for the dinner and all that, it worked out. If there had been rain, it could have been more questionable. But
And
yeah.
you just recently honeymooned?
Yes, we delayed our honeymoon a little bit so that Josh's PTO could roll over, and we went to Costa Rica in January, which
Hell
was
yeah.
awesome.
What'd you do there?
We did a lot of things. Highlights for me were the wildlife. The wildlife there is amazing. You just like see stuff everywhere, it feels like.
you
Saw
see
a
sloths?
lot of. I saw some sloths.
No. Wild ones?
Yeah, wild sloths.
Oh, my
yeah.
God.
We didn't do any like specific wildlife viewing tours. We just were like, we're going to be here for a while. We'll probably just see stuff. And that's how it worked out. We did go to like, there's a national park called Manuel Antonio National Park that was near where our second spot was. And that's where I saw like the best sloth sighting I had. It had a baby on its back and it was like upside down in the tree. It was really cool. A lot of them, they just look like fur balls high up in the tree. You can kind of tell when there's one around because like people will literally just gather and like they're all staring up at the tree. And then I got to figure out like what kind of trees they were in, but
They're hard to spot because they don't move, or they move so
yeah,
slowly.
yes, yeah. Whereas like normally I feel like movement is like the easiest way to spot wildlife. But yeah, they move so slow. It's usually like someone will spot one, and then that's the only way I saw any of them was someone spotted it and then pointed it out, or there was a big gathering and you just kind of like look up at the canopy long enough and you figure you find one. But yeah, very, very cute. Lots of monkeys. We had an Airbnb for the second half of our stay that like we found out these monkeys at like 6 a.m. It must have been like part of their migratory path to like get food every day. So you like all of a sudden start hearing like all these little pitter patters on the roof, and it's like there were TT monkeys, so they're like little. They're like bigger than a squirrel but smaller than a raccoon. They're really cute, and I have these videos of them just like jumping from tree to tree, and they followed like the same path every day. It was crazy, but they were all over. Like the trees were just like crawling with monkeys for like 30 minutes, and then they're gone. They like made it all the way through, and it was really cute. We did I've never done a deep sea fishing trip.
I was going to say, I saw a photo of you with a very large fish.
Very large fish. Biggest fish I've ever caught. It was a sailfish. They're protected in Costa Rica, so it was catch and release. And I think maybe other places too. But yeah, caught a big sailfish. That was pretty wild. I've never experienced anything like that. Never really envisioned myself being in that situation, but Josh was really excited about it, so we did it, and I'm really glad we did because it was definitely one of the highlights for me.
If you were single,
Mm-hmm.
I know we're talking about marriage, but if you
Yeah.
were single, do you think that you would, at this point, have evolved to now be a person where you would have a photo of yourself holding a fish in your
No.
dating profile?
No.
Really?
Maybe. I guess it depends on like the context, because some of my girlfriends, like, we fish together, but I know them through Josh being friends with the guys who love to fish. So it's like the girls that I go fishing with, who I'm now like really close with, I wouldn't have met them if it weren't for Josh. So, I mean, I think I would have definitely been interested in fly fishing, but I don't know that I would have gotten as involved, if I'm being honest, because it's kind of a sport where it takes a lot of knowledge and patience to get involved with, and I've been very spoiled in the sense that like we have a lot of friends that are guides, and so it's been, that's lowered a lot of the barrier to entry for me. So I don't know if I would have sought it out and discovered how much I liked it if it weren't for the boys.
Gotta give one to the boys every now and then.
Yeah, that's a win for the boys for sure.
I also want to talk about what you've got upcoming. Some big runs.
Yeah, if all goes
And I don't
well.
mean diarrhea. I mean
That too, probably.
That's true. They go hand in hand,
Yeah.
right? Josh mentioned that you have a running coach.
Yep.
I do. I hired a running coach. She's amazing.
He mentioned it was someone popular. I didn't know. Couldn't remember the name.
Her name's Emily Ketty.
Okay.
Her Instagram is Pancakes in the Wild.
Okay.
She would be a great guest, actually. So backstory on like why I ended up doing that is Leslie, who will, I believe, be on an upcoming episode, has tried to get me to do this Monument Valley 50K for like 2 or 3 years now, and I've always been reluctant because I just don't trust myself to train through like a Summit County winter. And so I was like, I want to do it this year. I want to like stay in running shape, and I want to like hit some big goals. And I think like I trained for my first 50K just basically by following like an online program and kind of winging it, but I wanted a little bit more knowledge to kind of help with like when life stuff comes up, like what do I do, and more nutrition help, more strength training help, and like more accountability really was a big part of it.
I feel like the accountability part is huge.
Huge.
Like knowing you
Yeah.
have like a homework assignment and you have to
Basically.
report back to somebody.
Yeah, it's definitely helped me on certain days when like I don't want to run. I'm like, well, what am I going to tell my coach I didn't want to?
Yeah.
Like if I have she's also great though at like understanding that life is real, and stuff comes up and you're not always going to have like the perfect schedule, but
So she's not David Goggins. She's
no, and that doesn't work well for me.
Yeah.
I would probably just end up ghosting that person if
Yeah.
that was the case. But yeah, so it's a good mix of like I am having to tell someone what I'm doing and why, and like is this reason legitimate, or is it I'm just don't want to be cold today. So yeah, she's been awesome. I have a 50K in like 2 weeks. This training block has been but not because of her, just because life, and I got sick, and
also just training in the winter is
it's tough.
Yeah.
nuts, especially at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, and like
Every time
we've
I
had
see one of your videos where you're running through snow outside, I'm like,
Yeah.
ooh, good for her, not for me.
I've learned how to layer. I was very scared of it before, like I'll fully admit, but I've learned how to layer a lot better, and it's really not that bad. But we've also had a very mild winter, so I'm like curious if I would have even been able to do what I've.
Mild's probably putting it
Yeah.
mildly.
Yeah. We've had like our worst winter on record. But I mean, it's still been cold. Like I've still gone on like feels like 15-degree days, and I've run on ice and snow and stuff. But there's also a lot of treadmill miles in there. So
When you say you learn how to layer better, this is after you've done all the hikes we listed in the beginning, and now you're learning how to layer better. It can be after you've done like the PCT or after you've done a long trail, you can think that like, hey, I've got this nailed down. Obviously, you've still had things that you've learned after all those miles. What have you learned about layering that you didn't know even after all those hiking miles?
I would say it's like expanding on that knowledge, because layering for running can be a little bit different and a little bit trickier, because in some ways easier, in some ways harder than layering for backpacking. I think one thing that I've really noticed with running is like having extra layers on my butt is a big deal. Like if it might be cold, you might only need leggings, but your butt might still get really cold. So I've like started putting shorts either under or over my leggings, which is not something I would typically do on a hike. That's helped a lot. Figuring out ways to like keep your face warmer. I've like put a buff up on my face a lot. So that's like, I mean, that's something I would have learned backpacking too, but I think not overdoing it actually has been a learning curve between backpacking and running. Because backpacking, you can put on a puffy and a like fleece, and you still might be kind of cold. But running, you need to learn like you should not be leaving your car with a puffy on. So, and gloves are really important. I think backpacking sometimes we just like don't worry about gloves, or if we do, I don't know. I don't think about it as much. But like sometimes,
and just waiting for the day to change.
Yeah, sometimes I like I'll be wearing like just regular t-shirt but gloves still.
Yeah.
So.
And you have a 100-mile race?
I'm signed up for a 100-mile race.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm signed up for Javeliana 100, Javeliana 100. I don't know how people actually say it, but that's like Halloween weekend of this year. So.
Is it 100 miles or 100K?
100 miles.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
what is your goal time? I can't even
The
fathom.
cutoff is 30 hours.
Okay. What does that come out to miles per hour?
I think it's like 4 point something. I was looking at this the other day. 100 divided by 30. 3.3 miles an hour. So
It doesn't seem like a lot, but it's
30
30 hours.
hours.
Like that's
Yeah.
not sleeping.
yeah.
Is that? I assume
think-
no one sleeps during.
I don't
like
think
that.
anyone really does.
Yeah.
For that one especially, I'd have to, I don't know. But one thing that's exciting about that one is a lot of the like big ultra runners go to that one because it's flatter, and so like people try and test their speed and stuff. So I'm excited to get lapped by some people that I recognize, and
Ask for autographs out on the trail.
yeah, I'm like, Tara, I love you.
Neat.
Sweet.
Yeah, and I just signed up for Leadville 50 miler on the way here actually today because I needed like a mid-build
A little
race.
When's that
Yeah,
one?
in July.
Okay.
So
Well, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
We are pulling for you.
thanks.
I will feel extra fat following your Instagram updates, and
That's the beauty of ultra running is like eat all the food, walk
Yeah.
as much as you want. Maybe not in Javelina because I'll have to be racing for those cutoffs, but
when you're running that much, do you rely on hunger as a cue, or you're like, I haven't eaten in 2.5 hours, I need calories? I'm not even during the race. I'm just talking like a normal day.
Even like, normal day, I could probably be better about like eating outside of running. Like, but I feel like I'm just hungry. Like when I was in the peak of my 50K training for my last 50K, I was like hungry all the time, and I was just eating all the time. And then, but while you're running specifically, you definitely don't want to wait until you're hungry. If you've waited that long, it's too late.
Is there such thing as runner's hunger? Like obviously,
Yeah, I
hiker
think
hunger.
so.
Do they have a terminology for it? Is it just runner's
I
hunger?
don't, not that I've heard.
Okay.
But I definitely felt like I had hiker hunger.
Yeah,
While I was training.
that
And-
makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
talking
cool.
about Leadville,
Yeah.
date of this airing, I will just be getting back from Leadville. I'm going to go watch the ski joring.
Oh, sick.
Oh, it's so fun.
Have you been?
Yes, it's so good.
I'm very excited. For those who don't know, they do this in a couple mountain towns in Colorado and probably elsewhere. I think they do it in Montana too. But basically, they set up a course throughout the main street, and there are horses and people riding the horses and people on skis behind them getting pulled that like go off little jumps and stuff. It looks insane. So I'll be doing that, and I'm very excited.
Hell
So,
yeah. All the videos I've seen makes it seem like it's a fucking hoot.
Yeah,
It's-
I can't wait.
The energy is
Yeah.
top notch.
I decided to get an Airbnb like when I figured out the weekend months ago for just me and Garrett, under the assumption that I could always cancel if other people went. But we got it like right on the main street. It's this little itty bitty place. So I'm very excited.
That's cool.
And now that I'm speaking on this episode that has aired, future me is saying I had a great time. It was lovely.
I definitely want to follow up on that one. Okay, let's get to the actual subject of today's show. It's been a couple years since we've done something specific for PCT thru-hikers, and I thought, you know what, we're due, long overdue. So I don't think this needs much more introduction other than it turns out we're not going to be retracing any of our old steps from the previous PCT thru-hiking tips episode. So if you've already listened to that one, you will not be getting repeat content here. If you haven't listened to it, listen to this one and then go get some additional tips by listening to that one.
Should I give them the quick little teaser of what they'll get if they go back and listen to the first one?
Sure.
Okay. Episode 135, if you would like more than what you get on this one, some quick tips that you'll be getting on 135 that will obviously not be as quick if you listen to that episode is not to bulk up before the hike, not to overplan, 3 steps to prep, southbound advice, having a good diet, healthy food recommendations, shipping food, packing out morale boosting snacks, start dates, snow experience in September, heat training, electrolytes in the desert, gear setups, tents, sleep systems, backpacks. So if any of that sounds like, ooh, want more on that, that's episode 135, and we're going to do our best effort to provide new content here so that you get more, not just repeats of the same. So those are going to be what's on 135, and you can go back and listen to that if any of that stands out to you.
Hell yeah. All right, Sauce, kick us off. What do you got for your first tip?
Okay. This one is adjacent to not over planning, but I think more specific to what I anticipate will be this year on the PCT. I have a feeling it's going to be potentially a very gnarly fire season. And so my tip one is to just roll with the punches. The PCT or any thru hike for that matter will throw you unexpected obstacles, including injury, maybe fires. But one of the best things you'll learn from trail is resilience and flexibility. It's definitely a lesson that I have carried through with me to anything that happens outside of trail. If I find myself in like a weird situation, I'm like, you know what? I can handle this. I've been in the middle of the woods SOL before. Like, I'll figure this out. So I would just say anticipate big changes potentially to your thru hike. Nothing's going to go perfectly. And just if you go into it with that mentality of you're just there for the experience and you're okay with things going however they go, it's out of your control. I think you'll have a much better time than if you're kind of holding on for dear life to a specific plan that you created beforehand.
Love that tip. I think that's especially beneficial to someone who's going on to their second thru hike, i.e. they've thru hiked the AT already, because a lot of AT hikers will bring in the purism mentality to the PCT. And what, like Elise said, fires are quite likely on the PCT this year or any year. And yeah, continuous footsteps can be either very challenging, dangerous, or sometimes even illegal. So I think being able to roll with the punches is an excellent tip.
Yeah, that kind of ties into one of mine, so I'll use it as a piggyback instead of a separate one. But one of mine was to make a mental plan for an unconnected footpath should a connected one become unrealistic prior to hitting the trail. Before I hit the trail, I was like, I'm not going to miss any miles. My footpath's going to be completely connected. Like, we went and got a beer, and you were like, yeah, this one story of this girl who made it like 50 miles to the border and had to stop. And I remember being like, why would she do that? You know, and then you're out there and you're like, oh, because she probably didn't want to die. Neither do I. I'm going to skip this section. But I also did hike in a bubble with a lot of people where their first hike was the AT and they had gone out there, and a lot of them quit at the Sierra or at Whitney because they would have to unconnect their footpath, and they went through the mindset of maybe a different year instead of having to flip. So I think doing some mental planning beforehand of what happens if a connected footpath becomes unrealistic and what am I going to do will make it easier for you to make clearer decisions with less shock influencing those decisions. But I'll make my first one a piggyback off that one, which is look up side quests in advance. So if you need to wait out snowmelt, or if there's a fire closure, or if there's anything that maybe you need to either delay when you enter a section or wait to enter a section or get off a section, and you need to kill some time because you don't want to flip and you're not committing to that yet, look up some side quests in advance so that when that happens, you're not going with hive mentality and you're not saying 5 people want to go do the Oregon Coast Trail, so I'm going to go do that with them. And you get out there and you realize you actually had no interest in it, or, you know, like you're acting off of the influence of others instead of bringing your own ideas to the table. If you are to look up, like, before you get to the Sierra, if you go a little further in one of the resupply towns down the road, you get to Kernville, and Kernville has great rafting, right? Like, so you can look up things like that where you're finding things that are actually fun to you, and you're saying, hey, if something goes wrong in Southern California and I need to wait to do San Jacinto and I don't want to skip those miles, here's a side quest I can do that I already know that I like, and I've already looked up how I'll get to and from it. Or if I get to Kennedy Meadows and I can't go into the Sierra yet and I have 2 weeks to kill, here's a side quest that I know I'll like to do because I already got myself excited about it. I already did the logistical research of how I'd get to and from it, and now I can be the one pitching ideas to the people around me of, hey, let's try this instead. I think there's just so much stress in the moment where you hit one of those walls of, do I go in, do I not, what do I do instead? I'm not just going to sit in a motel for 2 weeks, where if you have the ability to have a little list like that to keep in your back pocket, it'll make that a lot less stressful for you. And like everyone says, don't overplan. You don't want to overplan the day-to-day of your hike, but sometimes planning a lot in advance is more helpful to you to get your head in the game and get you realizing this is real and this is actually happening than actually needing that plan. And this is a great way to use that energy to just have like an oh shit list that you can refer to if you need to for different parts of the trail.
Oregon Coast Trail, baby.
Yeah, one of my tips that can be a piggyback instead is to do the side quests. So if you have like that stuff in mind ahead of time, like Chaunce said, I think that makes a big difference. Even if it's not like a killing time thing, if you have enough time, like you started at on a reasonable date, you know, like doing Mount Shasta, doing the Wonderland Trail, doing Half Dome when you're in Yosemite, stuff like that. There's usually walk-up permits for it. Well, specifically for like the Wonderland Trail and Half Dome. And in your head, you might be optimistic, well, I'll have time to come back for that, like afterwards. It's so hard to actually do that a lot of times. So if you can work that into your hike, if you have time on your hike, obviously, if you're running out of time to get to Canada, that's probably the priority. But if you started early enough and you're kind of ahead of schedule and there's some interesting stuff along the way, like this is the time to do it. This is when you have no other responsibilities, you have the free time, you have the fitness. Don't be afraid to go on some side quests.
Hell yeah. My first tip, and this is recency bias, having just spent some time in the desert, but also being a ginger and having had multiple skin cancers, have a plan for the sun. You are exposed a lot on the PCT. Not only just the desert, that one's obvious, but even in the Sierra, Northern California. You get some relief in Oregon, but worry about those miles when you're several months into the hike, and then again in Washington. So you're going to be exposed to the sun a lot. I am personally a massive fan of the sun umbrella. I know maybe not fashionably in vogue. Some people don't like the aesthetics of looking like Mary Poppins out on trail. Totally understood. Get yourself a nice sun hoodie, get some pants if I actually don't ever wear pants, so I'm saying do as I say, not as I do here. But if you've got leg hair, that kind of acts as pants. But have a heavy consideration for the sun. I know especially people in their 20s tend to have this feeling that they're invincible. You're invincible. Eventually, this stuff will catch up to you. Even if it's not cancer, it's going to age you prematurely. So if you want to be vain about it, go about it that way. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of sun. Just have some plan for that. With, again, sun hoodie, umbrella is my personal favorite. Those are the two great options. I know you're a sun hoodie person. What is your hoodie of choice?
I really love Mountain Hardware's sun hoodies. I believe they are higher UPF. That's something you definitely want to check when you are searching for sun hoodies too, is some of the lighter like outdoor research colors are literally only UPF 15, which isn't really doing all that much. It's better than nothing, but it's not really. I think you want to be looking for like 50 plus, and I believe the Mountain Hardwear ones are. And then I also actually really like the Mountain Hardwear pants. I wasn't a pants wearer, but now that I found like pants that go with my sun hoodie, it works better for me. And I do feel like I have to interject. I think when you guys did the sun production episode, I believe there were some fact checkers that said hair will not protect you.
Oh no, I'm being.
But I know you were being facetious.
That.
But I feel like just to clarify for anyone who maybe have taken that seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I my legs got very burnt on this most recent hike. So yes, I can say with great certainty that it's not even a very good solution.
Yeah, just in case in the day of people's inability to
discern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good call out for sure. And you mentioned UPF. So the ratings mean like a UPF of 15 means that the fabric allows 1/15th of UV radiation. So a UPF 30 is 1/30th and so on. According to this, even a UPF of 15 is considered good. Like you can do better than good. But, again, if your option is nothing or a UPF of 15, that's great.
15,
yeah. But I would say at least 30 would be the target if I were going to make a recommendation to somebody.
And I am fact checking myself, and the Mountain Hardwear, specifically the Crater Lake crop, I love. And if you can find the Crater Lake crop hoodie, that's my favorite. But that is 50 plus.
50, great.
So
awesome.
And it's not super heavy, thick fabric, which I think that's hard to find the balance between a fabric that's not super thick and also has that 15, but because the outdoor research is probably the lightest sun hoodie I've ever tried. And it's, so if you're looking for like a really hot environment, it can be nice, but just keep in mind that UPF might not be as high.
Yeah, that is the trade-off usually lower UPF is more breathable, traps less heat, but not as good at protecting you from the sun. So, sweet. Elise, number 2.
Gosh, let me get my notes up. This is something that I feel like we've probably touched on the podcast before, but I would encourage anyone, if they can, to save more money than they think they'll need. More money does equal more flexibility on trail, and when you get home, I think it's kind of both are really important. If something happens, if you have to skip around a fire closure, if you have to wait out snow melt, if you get an injury, if you get sick, having money in those situations allows you to make more decisions. It broadens your capability to roll with the punches, as per my first tip. And then when you get home too, it can really be really hard to adjust to after trail life. And if you have a little bit of a cushion, that makes things a little bit easier. You don't have to make as maybe drastic of decisions as quickly. So if you're looking for a job and maybe you don't have to take the very first offer you get if you have a little bit more of that cushion. I think, I know it's not possible for everyone to save a bunch, but I would just say save more than you think you would need. Give yourself that freedom and flexibility, and you're never going to regret that.
Yeah. I'd even go as far as to say for the savings, put some aside for the post-trail cushion and don't even allow that to factor into your on-trail savings.
Yeah, because if you're coming home with $20 in your bank account, it's a bad spot to be.
It's a bad spot.
The plan.
Yeah, post-trail depression is a very real thing. And to your point, if you have to just jump at the first job offered to you, that can make for a really difficult adjustment. Yeah, I would rather be eating ramen only for dinner for a month consecutively than have to be suffering post trail. So something to factor in.
Cool. My next one, this one's going to be a little bit of an info dump, but I think it will be a useful one. More piggybacks off of what Elise was saying about having a feeling that this might be a big fire year. At least in Colorado, it's been a dry winter compared to previous ones. And I feel like when we go out on a long distance trail, we look up, what do I do if I see a bear, right? What do I do if I see a mountain lion? Those are common things that people will look up beforehand. The problem with something like the PCT, especially if it's not your first hike, and the connected footpath mentality is no one wants to be the person that gets stopped by a forest fire, right? Like no one wants to be the person that has to go around it, that isn't able to complete that continuous footpath. So for a lot of people, myself included, what to do if I see a wildfire doesn't, at least for me, make the list of things I'm researching in advance. I'm just hoping it doesn't happen. But when I was on the PCT, we ended up being a step ahead of the fires at every turn because I had flipped past the Sierra. So while it was great that I got to make it through a lot of these forest fire areas before they closed, I also was someone who had news organizations reaching out to me to ask if they could use my photos because I did have some of the earliest photos of certain like plumes of smoke coming out of the trees in certain areas for fires, where it was like I'm spotting something and having that mindset of, oh shit, do I call this in? And then like, who do I call, right? So having that mentality of this is possible, I could bump into this, and I might not even bump into a fire closure. I might bump into a fire. Like I might be someone who reports this and who is one of the first to see it. What do I do in that situation? The PCT has a great page on their website that tells you some facts about what to do and what to know, including like things to do before you head out. So I'm just going to repeat some of it here, and you can go there for more info. But they have a section that says know this before you head out. And these are great things to check every time you're in a town before you go do that next section on trail, which is there a campfire ban in this particular forest or park unit? Are there any restrictions or warnings about smoking? Are there any red flag or fire weather warnings? What level is the threat level for the area? And are there any permanent fire restrictions for the area? Perhaps no fires above a certain elevation. Any of those things are great to know before you head out because they'll give you a good idea for what to expect on that next section and if you do need to be vigilant. If you do see a wildflower and you want to report it, make sure you know your location. If you have GPS coordinates, that's great. If you have the mile marker on the PCT, that's great. The name of the national forest, the ridge you're on, the drainage that you're near. You just want to provide as much info as you can. And they also note on the PCT website, this is an appropriate time to call 911. I know sometimes it's like, do we call 911 for this or do we call somewhere else? This is an appropriate time where you can call 911 if you want to report that. If it's a less severe situation, you can also call the local county sheriff or the local Forest Service or National Park Service office. Let's say you are somewhere where you see a wildfire and a fire starts and you might need to figure out like how to shelter. You want to find a place with less vegetation or smaller vegetation. Meadow is better than a forest. Flat rock field is better than a meadow. Pumice flats, green grass, lakes, swampy areas are all things to aim for. Flatter areas are better than steep areas, but large, steep, rocky fields are better than brushy meadows. Look at the denseness of burnable vegetation and use common sense. If the fuel at the bottom of a rock field is heavy, for example, dense pine and fir trees, then flames are going to sweep up the slope from that fuel. If there are lakes nearby, you could always, and this is like emergency situation, get in the water and hide behind something to protect yourself from radiant heat. If there are big rocks or islands in the lake, hide behind them. You want to avoid chutes and saddles at all costs. A chute is a ravine that runs perpendicular to a ridgeline and channels flames straight up to the ridgeline, increasing the fire intensity many times over. Whereas a saddle is a low spot on the ridge and fire is channeled towards chutes and saddles, which substantially multiplies its intensity. If you're hiking on a ridgeline and discover a fire below you on one side of the ridge, take refuge on the other side away from the fire. Keep in mind fires typically move upslope quickly, so you'll want to go lower. This is one thing that we learn in school. Like if you're really in a dire situation, stay low to the ground. Smoke is toxic. The air will be better down low. And just know that wildfires can grow extremely quickly. So if it's windy and you're on a ridge or in a forest, you want to be cautious that fires can move quickly. It can be faster than you could run, right? So you never want to look at a scenario like this and think lightly of it or ignore a fire closure or think I'm just going to go through and it'll be fine. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you need to get rescued because then you're putting other people in danger too. They also give tips on what to do if you find yourself surrounded by smoke, or if the smoke column is well off the trail and not in the direction you're heading, like what you could do instead. So they've got a lot of really good info on the PCT's website, which is pcta.org. You can search how to react to wildfires. But if you are going and doing the PCT, I think that's something that often gets overlooked in the prep beforehand, and you don't want to be in that position where you're staring at a smoke column thinking, shit, what do I do, right? So that's just a quick breeze through some of the fast facts, but just like you would want to know what to do if you walk up on a bear, you should probably know what to do if you walk up on a fire, because, if it's a super dry year and you come up on one, you want to know, and if it's a super wet year and you end up skipping the Sierra, you might also come up on one. So either way, definitely good to do that prep specific to the trail you're hiking on before you go out on it.
To add on to that too, on the CDT, we had several situations where we were staring at plumes of smoke in the distance and like thinking, can we keep going or do we need to turn around? We actually ended up walking through an active fire at one point as well. That was crazy. But if you can designate someone who knows how to look at like the fire resources and give you updates via like Garmin or satellite messaging if you don't have access to internet. For me, that was my dad. Because he's a cartographer, so he knows maps, and he could look on, I forget, it's InsaWeb is the website that kind of tracks fires, and it basically makes sure it's someone who knows how to check the websites that report on fires, plus how to overlay that with, the route that you're on. Because there were times when we were like heading north and we could see plumes of smoke in the north, but we were like, well, maybe we're going like east for this section, whatever. I would have my dad, I would be like, hey, we're at this mile marker. Do we need to turn around according to this fire and the way it's spreading? And he could tell me, it looks like the fire is actually going east. Like you should be fine or not. And then, one time we actually like passed a bunch of fire trucks. There was a whole thing where they had closed the CDT on the official route, but everyone had taken an alternate because it was like the only water for like 30 plus miles. And so no one saw the closure signs, and we ended up like passing the fire trucks. We're like, that's weird. And then we were on the side of a hill, and like I remember the boys who were ahead of me turned around. They all came running back. They're like, there's a fire up there. Like we saw flames. And so we were on the side of this hill trying to decide, do we need to go backwards? We were like, backwards was still like 4 or 5 days from town. We were going to run out of food. Do we need to go forwards? So that's another like point for maybe having an emergency ramen pack or two in your bag in case you're in that situation where getting back out the safe way is going to maybe put you in a position where you have less food. What ended up happening is we ended up running into firefighters like that were on the scene, which worked out really well because they were able to escort us through the fire. It wasn't big enough that we couldn't do that, but they were like, hey, we're going to walk you through this. Like, just follow quickly. Don't step anywhere I'm not stepping, because like our shoes could have melted off. And then they ended up giving us a hitch to the road. But most uncomfortable hitch of my life in the back of that Forest Service truck. But all that to say, we tried calling like a non-emergency line to be like, and they didn't even, the whoever we got in contact with didn't even know about that fire yet, but it was on InsaWeb. So interesting dynamic there where like local authorities might not know even about a fire yet, but the Forest Service does, or I don't know exactly how that works, but you can, if you have your fire contact person, they might be able to tell you what to do in that situation.
Yeah, I think also like being observant, right? Like let's say you do see a fire, you're going to want to know which direction the wind is going so that you're not going that direction, right? So being observant, looking at the leaves on the trees, which way are they blowing? Which way is the grass blowing? Like really using your surroundings to gather more information. And I know like you can tell people to carry a paper map and they probably still won't, but if you're not going to carry one, when you're in town and you're checking the conditions for the next stretch and you're seeing if it's a stretch that maybe a fire could start more likely than not, then when you're in town, do some extra digging and find some bailouts. You know, just like you would if you're going into the Sierra and it's heavy snow and you're looking for bailouts if you can't cross a river. Look for bailouts where it's like if you get into the situation that you were in and you don't want to go 4 to 5 days back because you're going to run out of food. Having done prep for that specific section in town before you get out there to say, okay, there's this trail that goes to here, that'll go to here. That'll give you the confidence to go in with a little less nerves because you have that in your back pocket to say, okay, if I bump into something after this mile, here's where I will leave to go down. If it's after this mile, here's where I'll leave to go down. And having that plan will keep you from shitting your pants in the moment.
And one thing you can do for that too is downloading the topo maps on Far Out, so you're not just left with only that like tan background and a singular line.
Yeah, do the topo maps.
Yeah.
Just in general, do the topo maps.
And probably also just get a general navigation app aside from Far Out, like get Gaia or Backcountry or Goat Maps. That way you can get the trail information beyond just the corridor of the trail. And that website is incaweb.wildfire.gov, INCI web.wildfire.gov. Tip 2 for ZD is if it's a high snow year, and as of this recording, it's hard to say. We're at about average right now. I know they're forecasting a huge storm. Today is February 12th, so this is going to be very dated information. I just want to say that this is it's intended to be evergreen content. If you're listening to this in a different year, this could definitely apply. Not sure about 2026, but if it is a high snow year, consider going southbound. I know that is not the popular option. Obviously, the much more social scene is going northbound. And if like that's your primary consideration, then you know what, stick with the northbound experience. That being said, it is logistically, on average, much smoother to go southbound if the Sierra is very high snow. And what happens is some people want the story and the epic challenge of going through the Sierra. It seems like the majority of people don't want that. So people either get off at Kennedy Meadow South, say they're going to try again a different year. People either will then wait and try to flip up to the northern terminus, but that presents problems with the time that they get to Kennedy Meadow South. There's usually like a month-long delay. Some people try to just skip the Sierra and then hike north of there, but if you listen to, I think it was Jabba's episode with Lieutenant Cuckoo Bird recently, this year, that can be its own challenge. Like people just assume that Northern California is going to be snow free, but the snow can hang out on the north side of slopes and in the shade for a very long time, and the hiking in those conditions can be dangerous in their own way. Going southbound and starting in the height of summer, assuming the Cascades aren't also very high in snowpack, can be a really smooth experience if you are hitting the ground running, if you start the trail in good shape. The primary consideration for going southbound is that you want to be through the Sierra before October, or by the first week of October, I think is the conventional wisdom. Assuming you can do that, southbound has a ton of perks in that, one, you're going to see the Sierra in September, and it's fucking magical in September. The weather was perfect. There's no bugs. It's not that crowded. Enjoyed every single day of the Sierra in September. You're going to get a consistent weather in Washington. I would rather deal with the weather in Washington in June or July compared to late August or September. Certainly if you're pushing late September, like winter is coming and knocking and rain is quite likely. I think we saw like 20 minutes of rain throughout the entire stretch of Washington. If anything, the hardest part about the weather in Washington when we went through was that it was hot, which is like a good problem that I would trade for the typical weather patterns that a northbound confronts. That, and you're still enjoying Oregon and Northern California, just based on the fact that it's still fairly recent in the trail for you. That is often not the case for northbound hikers, and I'll go more in depth on that on my third tip here. But southbounding has a ton of perks. Obviously, both directions have their various pros and cons, but especially in a high snow year, I personally believe that southbounding is the way to go.
Yeah. One thing I'll toss on, just because you mentioned the Jabba Cuckoo having to flip, it might not be as easy as you think type content. A quick little tip, a little sub tip, if you will, that I learned when I flipped around the Sierra and that saved me some money is U-Hauls can be cheaper than rental cars, and you can sleep inside of them. So we were looking at doing a rental car to get around the Sierra, and to get a rental car from an obscure location already starts off with a higher price tag, but to return it to a different obscure location really jacks up the price. Whereas U-Hauls, they expect you to drive it one way because you're moving. So it's a lot more reasonably priced. And what we had done was we hitched up to Mammoth, and then we rented a U-Haul there. You could return a U-Haul in Tahoe. You can return a U-Haul in Quincy just after Sierra City. There's a lot of different places that you could return it. For us, we rented the U-Haul midday, and when we were driving, we didn't plan on getting to the next location to drop it off until the following morning because of when the store would be open. And so we ended up parking at a Walmart, and we locked the front of the car. We went to the back of the U-Haul, slid it open, went in, set up our sleeping pads and stuff, and closed the slidey door and went to sleep back there. So you're saving on a hotel room as well. So if you do find yourself in a position where you do need to flip and you are price conscious and using a rather thin budget, do not underestimate the power of a U-Haul.
Basically
Sounds like fun.
like a portable backcountry shelter.
Oh yeah, it was really fun.
Yeah.
Another item to corroborate both of your points. In recent years, I feel like the PCTA has gotten a little more clear about when permits are and are not valid. And I believe if you skip the Sierra, that does invalidate your permit. Not saying that a ranger would necessarily know that you did that if they find you, somewhere in Washington after, everybody's timelines are different. But it is something to consider as like maybe a reason to go southbound. If you might end up having to skip the Sierra anyway, you don't have to even worry about that mess.
Yeah. And then especially like if you want to end with the Sierra, because in 17 it was common for people who skip the Sierra to then hike to the northern terminus and then come back and finish the Sierra at the end. I don't know how logistically they were able to pull that off, but obviously their thru-hiker permit was not the valid permit that they used. Yeah. Maybe they pieced it together at ranger stations, or I don't know.
Yeah, but that seems like its own logistical challenge, because a lot of the case with those walk-ups, it's really hard to do that without a car. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. That people often tout like that you can get permits for each, section along the PCT, but what they don't talk about is that you have to drive to these ranger stations that are like out in the middle of nowhere, not necessarily on your footpath. So, that gets really difficult.
I also, just to like demystify it a little bit, because for me that makes my anxiety say I want to go nowhere near that. I have heard stories from people where they have had to, make amends because they invalidated their permit, and I've gotten feedback that they've called the PCTA and received a lot of useful help in terms of, okay, here's what you need to do then, where it's not just like they're like, okay, well, fuck you, call them, tell them your situation, tell them what you're trying to do, use them as a resource rather than the person who's waiting to get you in trouble for doing something wrong, because they want you to have a successful hike too.
Absolutely. Yeah. PCTA is your friend. They're just, even, the fact that permit even exists is because of the PCTA. They want people to be able to go through in the way that is the most beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, and I'm sure they also like appreciate you calling and doing the right thing. Like they're not getting that call and being like, oh, this person's fucked. They're getting that call and being like, wow, thank you for not just doing it anyway. Yeah. And let's help you figure out how to do it the right way.
Definitely.
All right, Sauce, number 3.
All right. Number 3 is, I would say, to see it for yourself before making any huge decisions, if at all possible. This comes mostly from my experience on the PCT in 2019. It was a really high snow year, and everybody was just raving about how it was impossible to go through the Sierra and blah, blah, blah. And yes, there are definitely dangers that a high snow year poses, but you don't know your comfort level with certain things until you experience it. So if you're like me and the PCT is maybe the first time you've ever seen snow in July, it can be really easy to listen to the armchair experts and get a little bit freaked out by what they're talking about. But What they don't know is I started super late, which I don't necessarily recommend. However, it meant that by the time I got to the Sierra, even in a really high snow year, yes, there were huge challenges, but it wasn't impossible. And so I think that can apply to many different parts of the PCT. There might be things that people are like making a really big deal about that really just aren't actually that big of a deal when you get there. I think this is also like true for the CDT. People love to talk about the water in New Mexico. Yeah, it's awful. It's disgusting. It looks gross. However, it's really funny to like take a picture of a cow pond that has algae floating in it and be like, I drank from this. It's like so gross. But when you like put your water bottle in that cow pond, a lot of times you lift it out mostly clear and then you're filtering it, of course. It's really not that bad. There are some really disgusting sources, don't get me wrong. But basically, if you can safely get to a situation and then assess it for yourself, try to do that rather than just taking external opinions at face value, and try not to let them freak you out if you haven't been able to look and decide for yourself whether it's something that you can tolerate and whether or not it fits your skill set or is outside of your skill set. Try to like really hone in on what you're capable of and what is maybe something that is above your skill set as well. I think it goes both ways. You know, if you know you don't have a lot of like winter experience or snow travel experience, or if you're like Chaunce and you're shorter, the water crossings legitimately pose a much bigger threat. Whereas like something that is really dangerous for her might be fine for me because I'm like 6 or 7 inches taller. So it's really about personal risk assessment and personal like tolerance.
Yeah, and I think there's different tiers to developing trust issues on this trail. Tier 1 is like the PCT class of 2026 Facebook group, or insert whatever year you're hiking. Keep in mind, majority of the people on there aren't people currently on trail. It's like has-beens like me who just are in there trying to see what's going on and feel like I'm still a part of things. And they're going to shoot off advice based on their year and what they went through and what they saw and their risk tolerance. So if you're trying to decide what to do on something, avoid the Facebook groups. They're just going to freak you out. We also had a phrase that we started adopting in the later half of the trail, which was never trust a southbounder. Because it's the same thing as the person coming down the hike as you're going up the hike, where they're like, you're almost there. And then 0.2 later, you're like, yo, fuck that person. I was not almost there. But they're like, oh, you're going to need spikes on this, or oh, you'll need crampons coming up, or oh, that section was so bad. And then you spend the next day fucking dreading it to get there and realize you didn't need spikes and it wasn't that bad. And so we ended up
so quickly on trail. If it's like a weather situation or a seasonal situation, it changes so fast.
And I would tier it where like trust the person who's on trail telling you what's going on more than you trust the person who's on Facebook telling you what's going on. But even then, grain of salt, like it's the same person that's going to be telling you you're almost at the top, and it's up to you to determine if you are almost at the top, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me too of just so many situations where the trail can be completely different for southbounders or someone a month earlier. Like if you're reading far out comments and it's 3 weeks old, there might not even be snow in that spot anymore.
Yeah.
If it's something about a snow tip or like blowdowns, the trail maintenance could have come through since then, depending on what kind of an area you're in. So yeah, if you can safely do so, check it out.
We had a whole bunch of gossip going on about the Etna Snow Bowl. Ooh, the Etna Snow Bowl. It's going to watch out when you get there. And I was freaking the fuck out about this Etna Snow Bowl. And one thing you don't remember is like the people coming south telling you about it, like they're going in the opposite direction than you. So if they're going down something, you're going up it. If they're going up something, you're going down it. So this treacherous Etna Snow Bowl was like, and it was something that we went up and around, and I wasn't even on the trail during it because I couldn't see the trail. And it was just like, yeah, I'm going that way. I'm going to go up this hill to get that way. I'm on snow. Like, I personally feel totally fine in this. Had I been going downhill during it, it probably would have been a little more scary.
That reminds me of our Teton Crest Trail experience, actually, because Chaunce and I crossed a bunch of people coming the opposite way of us, and they were like, oh, paintbrush divide's so chill. It's no big deal. And it was okay.
I had to fucking jump.
We had to slide down that thing. It was so much scarier sliding down that thing than I bet it was going up
jumping it. Into your arms. I was like, catch me. Because if you don't catch me, I'm dying.
Yeah, it was like a shoot of ice or like shoot of death.
Yeah. And then oh, don't worry, they kicked in steps. There's steps kicked in. And it's like, okay, cool, you kicked in steps, but like the way to get down to the trail where you could see the trail is like 3 feet from this like snow path that has the steps kicked in, and I have to jump from the snow path to the stride trail with this treacherous death thing next to me. And it feels a lot higher for me because I'm so much lower to the ground. And so Elise went first, and I was just like, catch me. If you've ever seen Lord of the Rings, when Gimli says to Legolas, throw me, that's how I felt. Do you know that scene? That was you
Josh
and me.
is going to be disappointed because I don't know.
Oh my God, where is he? Josh, the scene in Lord of the Rings where Gimli tells Legolas to throw him. That was us on Paintbrush Divide when I was like, catch me.
I do remember I had to be like, put your ice axe away because he was like going to impale me on your way down.
Yeah. So basically, don't trust anyone.
Things are different from different directions.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, it's my turn. Yeah. My last one, just to veer a little from the spooky scaries. There's ones right here. I think he's telling you. Do you want one?
But it's propping up your phone.
Oh my God, that is not important. It is so not important.
We're talking about beer.
Yeah, don't worry about me. Okay, so we've given you some spooky scaries. I'm going to end on a happy positive, which is useful for if this is your first hike, and it's useful for if maybe you're coming from the AT and now this is your second hike, which is Cowboy camp if you haven't yet.
Yes.
On the AT, it's shelter or tent. For the most part, a lot of rodents, don't do that. On the PCT, Cowboy camp if you haven't yet. I didn't set up a tent until I got to Northern California just because there were some reports of mice. There was someone in my trail family who, I remember exactly what bridge we were sleeping under when we all set up our tent for the first time. And he had his tent chewed through by a mouse. And we were sitting there in the morning like, damn, if we cowboy camped, you'd still have a fully intact tent. But it is really a great trail to cowboy camp on. The desert is phenomenal, especially if you're in a group, to cowboy camp. Even Oregon, Washington, Northern, like any chance that we would cowboy camp, because it's not like the AT where it could rain in the middle of the night. Most likely that's probably not going to happen to you. The views are great. There's not as many rodents. It's just so fun to just lay down your shit and sleep on the ground surrounded by friends. And then it's even more fun in the morning to not have to pack up a tent. Oh my gosh. If you have not cowboy camped yet, do it. You will love it. And it's just the perfect trail to do it on.
Amen to that.
And for anyone who doesn't know, not to use lingo we don't know, cowboy camping means you're putting down your ground cloth and your sleeping pad and your sleeping bag and you're going to sleep, but you're not doing it in a tent. You're just doing it in your campsite, flat ground.
Under the stars.
Under the stars. Like a cowboy would if he was in the middle of a little cowboy expedition and was just laying down next to his horse, per se.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know people that sometimes will avoid cowboy camping during a full moon. A tent doesn't really do much to help during a full moon. It just spreads the light out more. So
put your buff over your eyes. That's how I sleep.
Yeah.
A buff is a sleep mask.
Yeah, good. Like that. I cowboy camped a few times on the SDTCT. It was nice. Last is, I've been kind of on the fence if this is the one that I want to go with. No, I'm going to do a different one. I'm going to say, for a lot of people, for this, if this is your first thru hike, the idea of taking on a 5 to 6 month 2,005 or 650 mile trek can be incredibly intimidating. Don't think of it that way. Break this down into tiny sections. Only ever focus on a day, or I think more realistically, you're going from resupply to resupply. And in most instances, that's going to be anywhere from like 2 days to 5 days. It can get a little bit longer in the Sierra. But don't ever look at the total percentage of the trail that you have remaining, because especially as the trail gets mentally more trying, thinking of the scale of what you have left in total can be really demoralizing. Just focus on getting to the next town. I feel like most long-distance backpackers really enjoy the town experience, so breaking it down that way can allow you to focus on the positives of all the fun things you can do in town. Go see a movie, obviously get some good food, maybe sleep inside, and that can definitely be enough to recharge your battery. But don't ever think about, like, I'm in the middle of the desert right now, I'm having a rough day, and I have to go 2,000 plus more miles to finish this trail, that can be a really debilitating thought. Don't ever let your mind get to that place. Just think about your next access to town. That breaks it into, I don't know, a couple dozen or maybe less tiny section hikes, which is a much more attainable goal as opposed to, again, doing 5 to 6 months.
Yeah. Repeat after us. Self-sabotagers focus on the full picture. Self-sabotagers focus on the full picture. Are you a self-sabotager? No, you're not. You are not, you silly goose. So don't focus on the full picture. Just focus on the next stretch.
Yeah. And it'll just make the progress so much more viewable. You'll see knocking off 80 miles is so much easier than looking at thousands of miles. So, again, small pieces. Do you guys have any last-minute things you want to throw in here?
I would like to do a quick honorable mention, maybe 2. One being, we've talked a lot about, like, if you have to skip around, like, don't let that get to you. If you're the kind of person who is really going to want to go back for a section, if at all possible, try to do it right after you finish. It's really easy to say, oh, I'll come back, like, next year, I'll find the PTO or whatever it is. But realistically, depending on where you live and depending on what section you're missed, if it's something that's not all that interesting, like if it's not a highlight section, if it's like a random spot in Southern Oregon or NorCal, or not, those are beautiful sections, but if it's not like something where you're going to be able to recruit friends, whatever, or even if it is, it's just so hard logistically, life-wise, stuff gets in the way. And also you're in the best shape that you'll be in. So if it was something that was closed and now it's open, and it's important for you to go back, I would highly, highly, highly recommend trying to do it right when you finish, if it's possible, over waiting like a year.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that one for sure, because my goal when I did the PCT was as soon as I get to Canada, I'm going back and finishing the Sierra. And when I got to Canada and everyone else was just like, we're going home, I didn't want to go back to the Sierra. And I said, I'm not going to force myself to do it and not enjoy it. It's too beautiful. I'm going to wait and do it when I want to. And the next year I had my permits and I was ready to go do the JMT, and then there was a forest fire and it ruined my trip. And it took a couple years before I was actually able to go back and do it. I hiked the PCT in 2017. I did the JMT in 2020. And I tried to do it every year after, and it just wouldn't work out because of fires. It wouldn't work out because of fire. You know, like it just wasn't working. So I definitely agree. Like, try to do it as soon as you can and be flexible if you can't. But another thing about putting it off and it being harder to go back, and this is almost counterintuitive, is when you're in the moment and you need to flip a section or skip a section for whatever reason, so many times you're trying to miss as few miles as possible, where it's like, okay, I'll go right up to this fire closure, I'll walk down this dirt road, I'll hitch around this, I'll go up this dirt road, I'll get back on right here, and I'll only miss 12 miles. You know how fucking hard it is to go back and hike those exact 12 miles? And, like, are you going to want to do a PTO vacation for that?
And rent a car that you're going to have to drive to the middle of nowhere. And
then, like, find a way to shuttle back and re-hike those dirt roads. Whereas if it's like, if I know I'm going to be faced with missing 12 miles, hiking 6, missing 10, you know, if it's going to be patchy like that, is it in my best interest to just do a clean skip? Where it's like, for the Sierra, for example, I'm skipping from Mammoth to Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe. And then when I go back to do this as a hike on PTO, I'm going from 2 established, easy to access towns where it's going to make this a cleaner section, and I'm not going to think, oh, I'm doing repeat miles, or I'm not going to think, oh, I have to do these obscure routes to get to where I left off my footprints. I know in the moment you want to miss as little as possible, but more often than not, I think it's easier to go back and make up miles if you do have a clean chunk versus anyone I know who's had to miss like a 12, 16 obscure number mile section based on something strange. You're not going to go back and do it. Like, let's just level with each other. You're not, you know? So there is a benefit to skipping more in the moment and making your life easier if you are someone who has the intention to clean up those miles. If you don't have the intention to clean them up, then yeah, do as much as you can and try to miss as little as you can, and don't give a fuck about it because no one else really does. It's your hike, not theirs. But if you really do have that personal goal of going back to clean them up after, it's easier on you to just give yourself a good in and out point than to focus on how little can I miss right now.
Yeah. I missed 2 chunks in 2017 and have not gone back to them.
Same. 2019 here, but yeah, I've not been back to Washington.
Yeah. With finite amount of time, I want to go do the best trail possible and not just some miles that I missed on a previous through hike. So, yeah, I haven't felt compelled to do it. I think eventually I probably will. Maybe, hopefully, over the course of like another through hike.
Yeah.
But
to Chaunce's point, I'm like, if I go back, I kind of just want to do all of Washington because it was so gross when we were there.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But
Yeah. And you're giving yourself a stronger reason to go back. If you have if I have a 150-mile section I've got to do, damn, I can get a group together. You know, like we can go have a fun time. I'm not talking anyone into coming to clean up 12 miles with me off the beaten path. It's just like, it's not going to happen. And it's also like when you have like, let's say you're in a relationship, right? And you're like, oh my God, this person's the world to me. And you break up and you're like, oh my God, I'm doomed. Like nothing will ever be the same. Heartbroken. What am I going to do? And 6 months later, you're like, that person was a loser. Who cares? Right? In that moment, you're probably thinking, I will do anything to get back here and make up these 12 miles. This means so much to me. That's that shitty guy. Because 6 months later, you're going to have some clarity removed from the situation where you're probably like, you know what? I wouldn't give an arm and a leg just to go back for these 12 miles, let alone 14 days of my PTO just to hike through 1 day of trail because of all the logistics to get there. It's going to seem less important and more trivial the farther removed you get.
Yeah, totally agreed.
Yeah.
I feel I had one more honorable mention.
I have one
I'll
as
save it for
well.
future.
I'm worried about honorable mentions because we always do more of
Yeah,
these.
I'm going to pocket
Okay.
mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll do the Stay Salty question presented by today's title sponsor, Element. Use our URL, drinklmnt.com/trek. What is your hottest take in the world of backpacking or the outdoors at large?
Hottest take in the world of backpacking. Oh, gosh. Do I need to tell him to be quiet?
No, it's
No.
good.
We don't care.
This might be a little too inside baseball, but if you're the sort of person that gets mad at somebody for not unfollowing somebody fast enough, you have too much time on your hands.
Yeah, and I'm going to block you.
That gives me a good one to piggyback off of.
Yeah.
If you're the kind of person who gets mad about what someone else does with their hike, that's just weird behavior, in my opinion.
Very strange.
It's just, who cares?
Yeah.
Mind your own business.
And I know sometimes it really bothers people, like, okay, well, this person claimed to hike every single mile, and it's like, I know you skipped 600. I get that a little bit more, but at the same time, it's like, that's on them. If they want to lie about the miles they hiked, that's kind of weird. And it doesn't,
agree.
like, I don't know, don't let it get you down, because who
People
cares?
feel like they did the hard work for it, and
and
them
like
lying
that
about
person
it.
is diminishing their accomplishments.
Yeah, exactly.
And
It's like that's
It's
just
a stolen valor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
but like,
If you're
It's
not
not.
if this isn't someone you're hanging out with after trail, you're sending a Christmas card to, involved in your life, that you're going to have regular check-in calls with, go visit, et cetera, if that's not the level of closeness you have with this person, even if they're in your bubble on trail and you're seeing them frequently and they're pissing you off, if you know, hey, when I'm done with this trail, I'm probably not going to stay in touch, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect your life ultimately. It won't affect your life later. You're never going to stay in touch with this person. If I got upset at what every person in this world did that didn't align with my morals and values enough where it like really caused me stress, I would be dead.
and don't get me wrong, it's fun to maybe gossip and giggle a little bit if this person is like blatantly lying and there's no real good reason for it.
Have some little
Have a little
nighttime
gossip
chat.
and giggle, but don't let it get you down to the point where you're like super mad
Yeah,
and like
if you
feeling
let
like
it-
it's an attack on you.
Yeah.
if you let it affect your hike, they win. If someone is doing something and it's bothering you to the point that it is affecting your experience, the only person losing in this is you, because you're letting it affect your experience. They aren't, trust me, letting you affect their experience. They're just doing whatever they're doing that's pissing you off, but you're letting it affect yours. And do you want to give someone that you care about so little that much power over your peace?
Yeah.
I don't.
And there are liars and people desperate for attention in all walks of life. This is never going to go away. You'll find much more peace by just letting that stuff fall off your shoulders than carrying that weight.
We're not that special. We just walk a long time for
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Good. Okay. To the Trek propaganda portion of today's show. This one is an article that I want to feature that actually isn't written yet. This was news that broke today, really just a couple hours before we started recording. But I know we'll have an article out shortly. I think Kelly's on it already. But it's that, and very relevant to the PCT, that the border wall contact is no longer allowed at the PCT southern terminus. So they built a barbed wire fence. Well, I'll just read the excerpt here. The PCT southern terminus is still open, and hikers can access the monument as usual. What's changed is that the land just south of it is now part of a national defense area, so public access stops at the barbed wire fence a few feet past the monument. So you can still tag the start, but touching the border is no longer allowed. So there's a fence to separate you from the fence, and you can't, if you touch the fence.
You're in
What
trouble.
is
Yeah.
like?
Is this the
What's
same?
the logic here? Like, why? What's wrong with touching the fence? Is the fence not good enough on its own that we now need a barbed wire fence to make the fence more effective?
I'm on the other side. I think that they should make a fence to block you from the fence that blocks the fence. I want at least 6 fences between me and the border at all times.
Just make one effective fence. This is such a waste of money.
Yeah.
It does seem silly.
Like, what? Are you admitting that it's not a good enough fence?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, we've seen that fence. It's not a very great fence.
true.
I
Same with
couldn't
I'd
get
say
over,
you're-
under, or through it. The most I saw
Uh,
when we were there was someone peeped through it.
Yeah. I felt like I was able to stick my hand through it. That was 7 years ago. So.
Yeah, but what
But also the
what
CDT
kind of
fence.
domestic threat is it if you stick your hand through
You
it?
could punch
right,
someone
you
across
know.
the border.
Yeah, if someone's face is up against it.
That's
Really,
what I'm
you
saying.
could also kiss someone across the border.
That's true.
And all of that is extremely detrimental to national security, so we better include a second fence.
You could get kissed and then punched, Chaunce. How would you feel then? Confused.
I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, no, it is
It's just like a waste of money.
objectively very stupid.
Seems a little silly.
But great. Cool. Thanks.
I wonder if anyone will maybe not adhere.
Well, I have to imagine because there's a similar thing that happened at the CDT southern border, but instead of right there, it's like the last 40 miles, right?
Yeah.
Is like a national defense area, and you have to
You have to apply for a
submit.
permit.
Yeah, you have to apply for a permit. You have to like submit all your information, and there's a lot of people who I'm sure will do that because they don't, which is
And
like
you have to be a U.S. resident to even
yeah,
get
and you
the
have to be a
permit.
U.S. resident, and there are other people who are like, well, I'm not gonna freaking comply with that. Like, it doesn't make.
I just
Any
want to
sense.
remind everyone that borders are made up lines that we made up. So, like, you're starting your hike where you're starting your hike, walking 2 feet south of it to, like, technically touch a line that doesn't actually exist apart from in our, like, constructed world that we've made up doesn't fucking matter. I think all of this is stupid and a waste of money. But ask me how I
Amen.
really feel.
All right, that's the only one I'm going to feature. I wanted to keep it PCT-centric today. Today's question of the day, this is mine. I feel strongly about this one. What is the most overrated month for backpacking?
This is so easy.
I want to go first
I'm
so no one
so
takes
curious.
it.
Okay,
I
I've
know
got
Elise
2.
tipped hers. So
I've got 2,
I
so
know we don't
I'll go
align.
second.
Okay. June.
Oh, that was neither my first or second.
Okay. June, it's too hot in the desert anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
On the AT, you're too early for Maine. The bugs are still fucking. I mean, you can, and people do, but the black flies are still fucking crazy. In the mid-Atlantic section, it is sweltering. The South is even worse. It'll actually be great in Colorado this year. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be. But in Colorado, the high terrain is still very snowy, so unless you like doing snow travel. The same is true in the Sierra and in Washington. It feels like a month that should be good because it's early summer, but like unless you have snow travel skills or you're willing to deal with like an early bug season, it really just kind of fucking sucks.
Okay, yeah.
I'm into that.
Can't argue that. I'm going to go August. Uh,
I think it took me.
Good.
I can't remember. Is that what I said?
I thought that's what you said.
I don't even remember that.
Well, I'm taking August.
But-
I think September gets a lot of hype because trees and leaves and that shit, but then it also gets a lot of not hype because for trails like the Colorado Trail, for example, or anything with high elevation, you always hear the warnings that mid-September is when you could start to see early snows. Usually not until October, but planting that anxiety, I think, puts September off my list because you're doing something in September with slight anxiety. Versus August, it's like
I think September's the best month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. September's not on my list, but I'm basically there's reasons that take it off like that, where it's like it's not just all sunshine and rainbows. Whereas what you think August would be is all sunshines and rainbows because the weather's great. It's like later in the season, so the snow's melted. It's not going to be as hot as July. August is busy as shit on trails. Kids are still not in school. It's no better than any other month. It's going to be hot. There's going to be more foot traffic, and it's going to be more crowded. Or if it's a permitted hike, they're going to be harder to come by. And I just, like, you can do anything you could do in August in a different month and have the same, if not better, experience. July and August, I'm just like,
I'm actually pro August.
It's interesting because I don't remember having previously answered that question, and I would probably be pro August as well, however.
Maybe you said what you're going to say.
I'm not anti-August. Let's
Well,
get that.
yeah.
Let's set the record. I'm not anti-August.
No.
I just think it's overrated.
Overrated.
Yeah,
and I think that's
important
It's not as
here.
good as we think it is.
And
to
in
Chaunce's point,
recent-
I still take June over December. I'm doing
Yes,
it
right.
relative to the
Overrated.
expectation.
Yeah, I'm going to
Yes.
take August over February any day.
Yeah.
But if I have the choice between planning a hike in May, August, and September, and it will not risk my safety to do any of the other months, unless you're presenting me a permit on a golden platter, probably not going to do August.
Yeah. And also I think in recent years, fires are a lot more. August is when fire season really ramps up. I feel like I've been a Debbie Downer about that today. I'm sorry.
Ask me why I didn't get back to the JMT until 2020.
literally,
Because I planned it in August.
Yeah, I work at a brewery in like a ski resort town, so all anyone ever talks about is how we have no snow, and so it's been a lot on my mind recently. However,
no,
it's
the
gonna be
skiers
great.
are
It's gonna
sad.
dump in February
It
and
was
March.
60 here today we could pull up a
I
million stats for
ran
Colorado.
on the rec path today that I normally run on. That normally, like at this time of year, I have like yak tracks are a good idea. It was all pavement.
Yeah.
Anyway, and on a more positive note, it's gonna be great, and it's gonna snow a lot in February and March. And
Is that the plan?
No, we're manifesting
okay.
it. We're at the
I
manifestation
didn't know
point
if,
of the
like,
winter.
Doing the rain dance.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was like in this, like written, you know?
No, it's not predicted.
Okay.
The Sierra's about to get it.
Yeah, Tahoe's gonna get dumped
Yeah.
And honestly, count me in the minority. I'm fine with this winter. I mean,
Yes.
take aside all like the bigger picture
Yes.
issues, right? Like,
Agree.
but on a personal level,
I think we might as well enjoy it because we can't control it, is where I'm at.
My analogy is the Earth is like a marshmallow that's about to get turned black, but it's brown right now.
Right
so
now,
we're perfect.
Yeah, we might as well have
hasn't
fun.
caught fire yet. Let's just hold it over the fire
Yeah.
a little
Yeah,
longer.
let's just enjoy it while it's golden brown.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that analogy. And on that note, when I was thinking about this question today, I was actually going to say June for the same reason that Zach listed. However, I will pivot and I will take July
that was the second
because of the reasons sort of that Chaunce listed, as well as in a normal year, early July, like a lot of places are still pretty treacherous with snow. Like if you want to do Four Pass Loop, for example, if you talk to people who do it like 4th of July weekend, there's usually still some treacherous snow crossings. When did we do Teton Crest?
July.
Yeah.
That's what I was
there
about to
still
say.
some treacherous snow. It depends obviously on the weather. Every year is variable, but it also usually can be when the bugs are really bad in like the
that's my
Sierra
big
and stuff,
one.
or like Oregon, depending where you end up at the snow melt. That's when the bugs come out, is when the snow is melting. So if you're in a high country when the snow just melted, which is often in July, you are going to get eaten alive by mosquitoes. There's lots of people out because it's like prime summertime, but I think I would take like August or September over July.
And forget
Yeah.
anywhere in the AT aside from like maybe New Hampshire or Maine in July.
July
Like,
on
it's
the
gonna be so
AT
hot.
was literally hell.
Yeah.
I did 8-mile
Yeah.
days through Shenandoah because I just didn't have the will to exist.
I
Yeah.
could see that.
Also, when we did the Teton Crest Trail, because it was July, I was like, it's July. I don't need to do shit. I just need to show up. And I didn't bring bug spray, and there were
We
freaking
got
bugs
devoured.
everywhere.
Yeah. July is bug hell.
They were like those weird flies.
Yeah,
It
and
wasn't
Jul-
even mosquitoes.
July lulls you into this sense of, well, July and August, the permits are so hard. It's so hard to get out there. It's so packed because it's such great months. And so you get a permit for July and you're thinking, I've reached the promised land. And you go out there thinking it's just going to be perfect out there because I've got the best month. And then you're just freaking swarmed with bugs and still needing to make Lord of the Rings references to snowpack because it's still there. And you realize, wow, if anything. I've gotten like some negatives plus heat plus people and crowds, and that's not great. I mean, we were going to die in your car when it broke down and we had no AC.
Oh my God.
Like, we weren't doing well.
When it broke down.
Yeah.
It ran out of gas. And we were in the basin.
Your fuel gauge was broken, so it's not your fault.
I would like to.
It was not your fault.
Okay, from that point on, it's never happened like that until the other day. I swear to God, I got home with like 3 marks on my fuel gauge. And so I was like, I don't need to get gas for like at least a day or 2. And I swear to God, the next day when I left to go to work, it was down to 1 and did the fuel is empty light on. Whereas when we did it, that fuel is empty never came on.
No.
It never came on.
No.
Anyway.
You have no fault in the situation.
I don't. I hate that
still
car.
refuse to
I
give
can't
you
wait
fault.
to have like a good reason to get a new car.
Anyway, July sucks.
Should we go out and just destroy Elise's car?
Yeah.
It's already.
And then you can bill it to the track.
Perfect.
Wait a second.
So in summary, we hate every summer month. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I know it is the most overrated. We all have different takes on which month is the most overrated, except we all agree September is elite.
So if I had to draft my top 2 months, forgetting expectations, I would go September, August.
Yeah.
I would even go maybe May, September.
May's good for sure.
Where are you going in May though? I guess like
Anywhere springy. Anywhere, like I'm not going to the Sierra. I'm not going anywhere high elevation.
the desert.
But in May, to get like, the one thing I'll never forget is when I was starting the AT, X amount of miles in, I get a text from Zach that was like, have you heard the birds start chirping in the morning yet? And I was like, what is he talking about? There's no fucking birds in this. Like, I haven't heard shit. And then all of a sudden one morning, the birds were chirping and I noticed it because he asked that. And I was like, oh shit, there's birds chirping. Like, it's spring.
So like Appalachian Trail, Midwest, desert is good May.
Yeah.
Anything that's like pretty and not technical.
Yeah.
I would do anything pretty and not technical. Not everywhere gets snow, but May is not yet hot enough where, like, if I was maybe a Florida Trail gal, which I'm not,
I think May
that
would be
could
too
be
hot.
something. Northville Placid Trail, I think May would be a nice month because it's not too humid yet.
Yeah.
If I were to want to hike Shenandoah, May is perfect because, again, not too humid and hot yet. The Smokies could be gorgeous in May because you're starting to get those rhododendrons blooming. Southern California in May, while being more hot, you're still, I think, getting some of the super bloom if it was a wet winter. There's so many, like, if you're not dealing with snow, May is a great month to hike.
That's fair.
Is May the tail end of AZT no-go season?
Yeah, I would say it probably gets too hot for definitely the second half of May.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're a person who's heat acclimated and that
Yeah.
doesn't bother you, you might be fine. But
Yeah. I just think of May because for a very long time going to trail days, I'd like bite off 100 miles at the AT, and it can be wet. And that obviously when you're out on this AT, that can happen anytime. But like I've always had a really good time on the AT in May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Jinx.
That was cute. I don't know whose suggestion this was, but I like it. This is the Triple Crown of bucket list animal sightings.
We
Who wants
know
to
what we're
start?
going with. Number 1, sploot butts.
Displutes.
Is that your first
Chocolate
pick?
sploot butts.
Dispute butts.
I don't know if it's my first pick.
Wait, is this, see, I interpreted this differently. I interpreted it as like ones you haven't seen yet.
Ooh.
Or is this like your best that you've seen?
I would say let's start with the ones that we haven't seen, and if it gets slim pickings, end with the most enjoyable ones that we've
Okay,
had.
well, the sploot butts.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this in a vague way, which has nothing to do with which trail you're on, but just things that would excite me in this moment. I'm going to say my number 1. Actually, I don't want to start. You start. I'll go second.
Okay.
I need to think this through a
Okay,
little more.
okay.
I've got a couple.
Bucket list animal sightings of like ones I've always wanted to see. I really want to see like a wolf pack.
Ah,
Ooh,
Elise,
yeah.
you ass. Mine specifically was a wolf pup, but that
Oh, a
counts.
pup
Oh.
would be
Yeah.
more and more reasonable in Colorado these days.
Yeah.
I think
They might
blanket
have to.
statement, baby form of anything,
Baby form of
trumps.
everything.
That
Yeah.
when I saw a baby bear cub on the Colorado Trail, 2 of them, then they were running away from me, and their little butts, the way the fur and little tail shook as they
Cute
ran,
little brown butts.
I was like, oh, I could lay here and die. And then I got scared about where's mom. But I am replaying the image in my mind. It will never fade. It will never get less descript and detailed. And those little booties are just going to take up real estate in my brain forever. And I hope they never don't. Oh, they're so cute. Baby anything. So yeah, wolves. Fine. My
I'm upset with that, Elise. That was easily my number one.
Is this like a U.S. specific?
That was the
No.
way I was framing it, but Triple Crown,
Yeah.
take it any direction you want. This could just be favorite animals.
It's not very, if I were ever to come up on a body of water on any sort
I'm glad
of trail
that ended with of water.
and see an otter,
Oh,
and I don't know that this is not possible. I think it could be possible, especially in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's highly possible.
Sure, like a river otter too. That counts.
There was like a big fur trade for their
Have you ever seen
skins
a-
at some point. So I think that they
Yeah.
were at least at some point prominent in the Pacific Northwest. I hope they have a resurgence since. And if I were to be hiking in Washington and in any capacity see an otter, my day is done. I don't care how many miles I planned. I don't care how much food is left in my pack. I am stopping where I am and I'm watching that otter until it's not possible to continue watching it any further. Oh my God.
have you ever seen a mink? Because they're pretty similar, and I've definitely seen minks in Colorado.
I don't think I have.
They're like kind of like an otter, but smaller, I think, and they're but kind of similar.
There's martins on the AT, which are like vicious land otters. A martin is like a fisher cat, which is, again, picture a larger, more vicious land otter. And that's those. And we had a running joke for the second half of the AT that anytime something was like misplaced or like moved or anything
The
different,
pine
like it's the
martins.
martins.
Yeah, I've seen those before. and
Yeah.
they're in Wyoming too, or I've seen them in. I think I've seen them in Colorado actually too.
My dad said they caused like quite a bit of havoc at our farmhouse, and
see
I've
that.
never seen them there. But
Mischievous little animals.
I would like to,
Yeah.
but I'm sticking with otter for mine.
Nice. My first pick, it was taken. My second pick is available to me, and I'm glad that I get this, a badger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, your namesake, you gotta.
And they're incredibly rare. Don't even think I've ever been close to see. Like, I've never been around a group of oncoming hikers that are like, oh, I just saw a badger. Like, that's a pretty rare sighting. And they're ferocious, but to my understanding, not to people. So that would be a fucking awesome sighting for sure. Number 2. I don't think any of my options are going to fall to number 3 for me. But I'm going to go with California condor.
Ooh,
Just
yeah.
the biggest fucking bird possible flying overhead would be a really exciting experience.
When we went to the Grand Canyon in 2003 on a family road trip, we saw condors from a viewpoint, and that was cool as shit.
Yeah.
They have large wingspans.
Yeah, those are big birds.
Huge birds. Yeah. Nice.
You have a
I
second
already
one?
I did.
That was the
Badger
second.
and
Oh, shit.
condor.
Okay. Yep.
I know for a fact Elise is going to take my third one. I can just see it in her eyes.
This one's boring, but I really hoped for it on the Foothills Trail, so I'm going to say... If this was my ultimate I've never seen one list, it wouldn't make the list. But if I'm going based on what I have already seen and what I have not yet seen, when I went to the Foothills Trail, Taz, who did my shuttling for me, had a collection of photos in his car that he showed me of animals along the trail, one of which was armadillos. And the only time I've seen armadillos is I think I've seen like 1 or 2 roadkills. But I've never seen an armadillo roll into its cute little ball. I would love to see an armadillo on trail, not only just like walking and moseying, but I want to see one take ball form and roll. Oh, that'd be cool. Apparently they're nocturnal. You'll have to fact check me on that. I'm just going by what I remember, which isn't always the most reliable narrator. But I would blame that on why I didn't see one. But if I were to see an armadillo and maybe startle it by accident and it were to roll into a ball because it's scared and roll away, oh, that would be cool.
That'd be fun.
I'd like that a lot.
Like Sonic. I know, different animal, but
No, very, very, very good comparison.
Yeah.
That is a hedgehog, but I loved Sonic growing up.
hell yeah.
One year, this is a side tangent. One year, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was me and all guys, my brother's age, 3 years older. It was like 12 of them and one of me. So I just wanted to do everything they did. All 12 of us were Sonics for Halloween one year. And we just Sonicked our way through the neighborhood. It was great.
No one took tails?
Nope.
That's good.
All Sonic.
You don't want to be Luigi when you can be Mario.
Exactly.
One of my earliest memories back to the armadillo was my uncle like pulling over on the side of the highway and like picking up. I don't know why he did this. A road-killed armadillo, and I remember he just showed it to us in the back of the van. And
was it cool? Probably.
I mean, it was
sad.
cool, but I feel like it wasn't like fully squashed, but it was, there's some guts coming out. I don't really know why he did it. I'll have to ask him about that.
You're from Missouri, right?
We're actually, yes, and
important to note.
Yes, important to note, and also my cousins, that side specifically, that family used to do all sorts of cool stuff with like I remember they used to have beetles that would like eat the flesh off of skulls so they could like use the skulls, like how people like hang skulls like animal. Yeah. It was like making it sound weird, but like
no,
it has to happen some way.
I didn't know where you were going, but now I know.
Yeah, and they used to do all of that themselves. But I have actually one of my cousin's weddings this week, and I'll have to ask about the armadillo.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry.
That's good.
Is it my turn?
Yeah.
I think I know what Zach thinks I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna throw him. I'm gonna let you keep that one.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say Gila monster.
That was mine.
No way. I thought you were gonna say mountain lion.
No.
That's gonna be mine.
I
I'll elaborate when I get there.
No way. Okay. See, I was trying to do you a solid.
Yeah, thank you.
But okay, I was like, no way. Anyway. I really want to see a Gila monster. They're like super rare in like the Southwest, and they're like these giant lizards. And aren't they like venomous?
I think so.
Yeah.
But they don't really want to mess with people.
Right.
But they're super rare to see.
Yeah. I know everyone that's seen one, and to your point, they are very rare. It's like a super exciting moment.
Yeah.
And they're incredibly cool looking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Big
it's
ass
Good
lizards.
pick. Good pick.
venomous, not poisonous. So
Venomous, yeah.
you can eat them, but don't
get bit.
Don't let them eat you.
Yeah, and they have like spots on their back. And,
Yeah, they're ugly.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
not
I don't know if I would say ugly. They're kind of scary. They're like dinosaur-esque.
Call that cute.
He's kind of cute. Don't look at his face, but
I think he's sticking his tongue out.
I bet if you saw him waddling, he'd be cute.
I mean, I'd certainly appreciate the experience.
Yeah. I can't believe you were going to say Gila monster.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now you know my third pick.
Yeah. No, it's a good pick.
You could always take it from me.
What's your third pick?
Mountain lion.
Oh, fuck.
Well, but I wasn't supposed to go, so anyone can take it.
I thought it was snake draft.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay, so yeah, mountain lion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
mountain
got us
lion.
both, Chaunce.
I know.
Sorry, guys. My friend was like, I don't want to know if you could say stalked. He like didn't leave the same spot for like 16 hours in the Bob on the CDT, and he has these gnarly videos of a mountain lion. Like, thank God it didn't do anything, obviously, but it's like he yells at it, right, and like you see it move, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's gone. And then he yells at it again and it moves again. And it's like way closer than you thought it still was. They camouflage so ridiculously well. And I don't want to really have like an encounter like that, but I would like to see one in the wild just to check it off the list.
So here, okay, I'll tell you here's mine for mountain lion, and I think you might agree with me. I don't want to say it in the way that you just said it because I don't want to invite that into the possibilities of my future. And so I specifically would like the universe to know I don't want that. I don't want that. No, what I want is I would like to see a mountain lion, not in the context of a zoo. I'd like to see one in the wild, but I would like to see it while I'm in a car. Specifically, like I'm driving a dirt road and he's out there sunning his little belly because there's a nice patch of sun coming down, and I'm in my car and I have to stop and I look and I say, oh my God, it's a mountain lion. But I am still very much protected by the four walls of my car and the gas pedal. And that is the only way I would like to see one. I would not like to see one on foot. I would not like to see one from my tent. I would not like to see one on trail. No to all of the above, apart from outside of a zoo, inside of a car. I want to maintain that bubble of safety.
I've said my mountain lion story so many times, I'm not going to repeat it. But we did see, Jabba and I both saw a mountain lion a few days after that, like on the next ridge over. It was close enough that you could definitely see it, but not so close that it felt like a threat at all. And that
Yeah,
was cool.
that's like the context I'd
the
be.
appropriate
Yeah.
distance.
Well, that's like the last episode when we were talking about the San Diego Trail, and I was like, Jess, are you hiking near them? And Jab was like, she's at most was only ever like 0.1 or 0.2 behind. In my head, I'm like thinking of that story you told and how you said that was how far apart you and Jabba were.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I was like, still could happen.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
So, okay. My next one. This one is possible in the U.S., especially if you're in Florida. There are certain parks that have them at certain times of year. A manatee.
Ooh. Yeah.
I think a manatee would be so cool. I went through a phase growing up where I really liked them. And I maybe made a PowerPoint talking about how much I liked them just for fun. But they are cute, and they are not aggressive, and they are just little fat babies.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty common. Like, I don't think it's that rare of a sighting. At least I remember when I was a kid.
I've never seen one.
I think in Florida, people seem to see them on stand-up paddleboards, but you can't touch them.
Yeah.
There's one park that apparently they go to in like a warmer month, and on a road trip I tried to go to that area, and I guess I miscalculated the pinpoint and didn't get there, but I did try to go out of the way to see them. But I would really like that. I think that they are just
Big old teddy bears.
neat. They
Yeah.
look like giant rocks.
I just remember because we saw them on some boat, and then hearing that apparently they get chopped up by boats all the time out there because they're really slow and they don't know how to avoid boats, and the engines will just chop them up.
They're
And
also apparently like really kind.
yeah, no, they're gentle giants for sure. Yeah. My last one, and I thought you were about to snipe it, because mine is also a Florida thing, and this would be very rare. I don't know if any hiker has had this. If you have, please email us, podcast@thetrek.co. But seeing a wild monkey in Florida, and apparently there's a small stretch on the Florida Trail where that is possible.
Is yours specifically Florida, or can you see a wild monkey anywhere?
Anywhere, but I'm trying to frame it in the context of like backpacking in the
Okay.
U.S.
I have stumbled upon wild monkeys in Thailand, and it has been incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw so many in Costa Rica.
Yeah,
Like
same.
at least 3 species.
There's some that you come upon where you're like, don't touch. Those
The
teeth are big.
capuchins are a little scary.
But then there were ones that I saw that I was petting because they were so cute. And that's a great experience.
Yeah. Apparently there's a decent population of rhesus macaques in Florida.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that would be your,
I
your
didn't
best
know that
odd.
there were monkeys in Florida.
Yeah.
I love that, though.
Good.
There's a lot of crazy stuff in Florida.
Yeah. Florida's where the weird stuff goes to happen. Sweet. I'm going to run through some of this here because I didn't get a chance in the last podcast in the interest of time because that was a very long one.
Yep.
But I got a chance to test some new gear out on the San Diego Trans-County Trail. I kind of treated this hike as an opportunity to test new gear. I'll just run through it and give my quick impressions. This is our 1-minute gear review section. One is they're a future advertiser of the podcast, so you can take my endorsement with a grain of sand, given that. But I use the Hyperlite Mountain Gear Southwest 55. My only issue with it, and this is my problem, was it was too big for
That's what
that hike. Yeah.
The thing I was going to ask, that seems large.
I was a little concerned because there were going to be consistent long water carries, and I wasn't sure if the 40-liter was going to be big enough for that purpose. In hindsight, it definitely would have been, but I was very happy with how comfortable that pack was, and I didn't have a single issue of being like, this wasn't comfortable or the pockets were too small. I like the DCF did hold up very well to the sections where we were bushwhacking. I thought it all around was a really good pack.
Question for you. Would you say a lot of the volume was like in the, I guess they call it the crown of the pack, or was it more like overall? Like, I'm just curious if you could kind of pack it down if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's a roll top. So I could cinch it down, no problem. It's just like a little bit extra weight for what I needed, but having the extra capacity wasn't a hindrance by any stretch. It's just like, it was a missized pack for what I had, especially because my tent was so small. I'll get to that in a second. My next one is, I probably should have led with this because I've talked so much shit on ultralight poles. I've always been like a traditional Lecky pole guy, and Gossamer Gear was nice enough to send a pair of the LT5s. And I'll say that I understand why someone would go ultralight poles only. Like, it's definitely a very different experience compared to using like a heavier trekking pole.
Did you see the little tent?
I did, yeah.
That's me!
That was Chaunce's idea.
I'm so proud of that.
That is good. It was good. That being said, I'm not sure I would go back to it, just knowing that it has a higher potential for breaking failure, especially me being like a heavier guy. Like if I put all of my weight on it and it snapped in my tent.
It's because you saw me on the MPT.
I've seen a lot of the ultralight poles snap, and I also just like, I don't mind the heavier pole. I'll say that. I can definitely understand why somebody prefers the ultralight pole, because it is, I can see at the end of the day you have more energy because you've exerted less with your arms. That now makes sense to me. That being said, I kind of like the additional weight because it makes it easier to like stab it into the ground because it has its own weight. You have to exert less force to get a good grip. And this might also just be a nostalgic thing for me. Like I've done thousands of miles with a slightly heavier trekking pole. But I thought it was cool to use it, and I wouldn't be opposed to using it again, but it wasn't like a light bulb moment for me by any stretch. I used the Gossamer Gear Whisper, which I know it was not the one that you were going to use.
Yeah, that was the one that I thought they gave me, and then they were like, shit, she took that. And I was like, take it back.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, they're requiring me to send it back, so this isn't something I'm keeping. This is purely for testing.
Oh my God, that's
purpose.
totally fine. I didn't need it. I thought they were giving it to me, so I was like, sure, I'll take it. And then when I found out I misinterpreted that, I was like,
yeah,
I don't want this.
Yeah.
Enough.
But I felt like this was the perfect circumstance to test something like this. So the Whisper is a 9.8 ounce. It's somewhere between a tent and a tarp. So the Whisper is light because it doesn't have its own floor. The concept is that because you're probably carrying a Tyvek or a Polycro or something like that, you are providing your own floor for it, and it is the tarp portion, and the bug net just kind of drapes down to the ground, and there's really no way for bugs or anything like that to get in. I mean, it's technically still possible, but it's unlikely. For the purposes of this hike, it was awesome. I Cowboy camped half the nights, and the other nights where I did use it, I hadn't set it up prior to being on trail. That was the one snowstorm that we got was the weekend before we left, so I was planning on doing a trial run in my yard, and then we got like 6 inches of snow. And I found the setup to be actually pretty straightforward. I did watch Glenn Van Pesky's setup video a few times to just make sure that I had the rough motions down, but yeah, if you're doing a desert hike and the forecast isn't going to be severe and you really want to save weight, I thought the Whisper was really cool for those purposes. This one, there's not much of a review to give other than I know in the thru hiking world the Nightcore power banks are really popular because they're lighter. I've always been an Anchor person, and it was crazy to me that the Nightcore 20,000 milliamp hour pack was about the same weight as my 10,000 Anchor. I don't have anything to say beyond just the weight of it, other than if you want the most ultralight power bank, Nightcore is going to provide that for you. And then again, I know they're a title sponsor of the podcast, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but I use the same Pursuit 2s that I've used on many other hikes, and my feet were no issue. A big fan of Topo, and this was another notch on that belt. They held up beautifully. Do you have any new gear that you've used that you're excited about?
Because of the wedding last year, I only made it out backpacking like twice. But I have been using a Palante, Palante Desert Pack. I'm excited to use that on some trips this year. I did have a Nightcore that the 20,000 milliamp hour, and that broke on me.
Oh, interesting.
Just
I've only used it for one short trip, so I can't give a durability.
Yeah, I think actually I lent it to Chaunce, and like neither of us. Is that the one you lent me? Yeah, and neither of us could get it to like charge.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the one you lent me that I gave you back like 3 weeks later.
Yeah, I think so. It was a Nightcore.
I used it the rest of the trail.
Oh, you did? So it was fine.
That's why I didn't give it back.
Wait.
Because my battery died in the middle of the night because it was cold something happened, and I was like, I know I charged this fully. And you were like, don't worry, I have a second. And then it charged my shit for the rest of the trail, and then...
I feel like, though, it broke on you, didn't it?
No, that was mine.
Okay, well, then maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I need to, like,
I have, like, again, unreliable narrator.
Same. Same. My brain, I barely know what I did yesterday.
It could have really broke on me, and, like, I could have had a horrible time, and this could just be my memory. being like, no, it's great.
I'll double check when I get home, and then we'll update the people. Sorry for potentially inaccurate information.
I have read those reviews. I'll also say that I've had my Anchor devices like break within a few weeks of having them.
Yeah, I wonder if like how much of that is just hit and miss based on like, because I also have an Anchor that I've had since the PCT, which is now 7 years ago, and it's still solid. And I love, and same with my Nightcore headlamp. I've had since the PCT, still solid. Still use that every single trip I go on. So maybe it's just like, who knows?
I'll give a shout out to Anchor's customer service though, because when my thing broke like pretty quickly, they sent me a new one, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've never reached out to Powerbank's customer service, but I did do after. Can't remember what trail. After the trail, I did like an ad for some power bank company, and I still use that. It still works. A lot of my power banks still do work. What I've found is the ones that don't work. This is a pro tip. Not that I'm a pro, but here's a tip that I've learned through trial and error, which is more of an off-season tip than a during your hike tip. If you let the battery of your power bank get too low, like not just dead, but like dead, apparently, and someone will need to fact check me on the accuracy of this, but this is just what my brain remembered, but apparently it needs a little bit of juice in it to spark the charging process, is what I've gathered. And if the battery is dead to the point where like it died and you don't charge it for 3 more months, there isn't enough to create that spark to start the charging process, and it just will blink forever and never fully charge. And anytime I've broken, like actually had to get rid of a battery pack, not just it died because it was too cold on trail and I charged it in town the next time and it worked, but anytime I have a charger where it's like this battery pack has never actually held a charge again, like it will not hold a charge at all, has always been one that has died, and I've been like, it's dead, and I've tossed it on a shelf and have not charged it for like 6 months. I think best practice, if you're using a power bank on your hikes, which everyone does, when you're not hiking, charge it fully and then store it. Don't store it dead, because the main way that I have fucked up my power banks is storing them dead and not being able to get them to hold a charge again.
Yeah. Good.
Have you guys had that? Like, does that sound right?
I haven't experienced that.
I have no idea. I have not kept track in that sense, but my dad, I know, always used to say, like, for batteries in general, and this might just be older batteries, but like it's better to like use them up before you
that is true.
Recharge them. Like you don't want to charge one that has like 3 lights still.
Yeah.
If it's like a 4-light battery.
Or like same with phones, you don't want to leave it in overnight when it's already fully charged.
Yeah, which the iPhones now I think have like a built-in setup, like shut off. Yeah. But my dad used to always like, he's really into like the efficiency of that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
I think that's still true for batteries.
If someone's listening to this and they're like, she is dead wrong and this is just like egregiously misinformation, podcast@thetrek.co, like write in and tell me what's right. But from my personal experience and something I read somewhere at some point that I can't cite, my understanding is that if they are dead, sometimes they just cannot, something about it, they cannot start to hold a charge if they're below a certain threshold. So what I always try to do is charge them before I store them, and anytime I haven't, it's those ones that end up not being able to hold a charge the next time I need it. So for me, it seems like the maths, but if anyone has like a better way of explaining this with maybe more facts, I'm sure someone somewhere would appreciate it.
I wonder if that's also like a model specific thing, like if some of them regulate that they save a little bit of juice to avoid the situation that you're describing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh. Mailbag.
Great episode. Love you guys. I'm Brett Mullins, a.k.a. Cruzy, the new Chuck Norris awardee. You can't say new anymore. You've been here for a while, Brett. Is that a word? You're not going to believe this, but I'm a country singer and will be doing my own music cruise, not how I got the trail name, to Alaska in August. Kind of trippy. Y'all mentioned one. You should come. www.brett with 1 T, Mullins with 2 L's and an I.com. BRETMULLINS if you wanted that spelled out. Brett, we would love to come if you're offering us an all-inclusive ticket. If not, it's some budgetary concerns. But I did get that email and look up your website and look at the cruise, and it does look fucking cool. So if you end up, under not staffed, but under.
Underbooked.
If you end up needing some people to fill some seats, yeah, I'll go. I just don't have it in the budget. Yeah, that's good.
Hell yeah.
I don't think he's gonna sue us.
Hell yeah, brother.
It might not be up to him. It's whoever owns the music.
his label probably.
Yeah.
Well, good for you, Brad, for being big enough where someone that's not you could sue us for playing too much of your song. That fucking rocks. And this Alaska trip sounds awesome. And August is an overrated month to hike, so why not go to Alaska on a cruise?
Hell yeah. Thank you, Brad, for being a supporter. And the email, of course. This 5-star review is from Shaman Larry 9 Lives. Sage advice. Backpacker Radio has been my companion in all sorts of adventures. Recently recommended podcast, The Follow to a Fellow Hiker, as well as we were all resting on a ledge climbing the Precipice Trail in Acadia. Really enjoyed recent interviews with the Wonder Woman and Adventure Alan. Thanks for making this podcast. Signed, H. Thank you, H, a.k.a. Shaman Larry 9 Lives.
I like that he's -H, but his name on the review is Larry.
Yeah, a man of many monikers.
Yeah.
If you guys want
woman.
Yeah, true.
That's true.
It's true. Larry 9 Lives could very well be a trail name. If you guys want to hear your review read on this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave us any number of stars.
Just not 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Send us a screenshot of your review at podcast@thetrek.co, and I will send you a sticker.
And we should emphasize, just because we're saying you can't put 1, 2, 3, or 4 stars, doesn't mean you have to fake pump our tires. If you hate us and you hate this and you think that I'm the most annoying person in the world, you can absolutely let off steam and tell us. Just put 5 stars, because we're not going to, you can't shit on us in 2 departments. You can't give us a bad rating and shit on us and expect us to read it on air. But you can give us a good rating and some constructive or not criticism, and we will read it on air, and I will have a chipper face about it. You just have to put the 5 stars with it, so that there's a give and take, right? The one thing we won't do is don't put a 5-star review and really bash a guest, just because they do us a favor by coming on here, and
we can handle our feelings hurt. We don't want to hurt.
Yeah,
our guests'
it's just
feelings.
kind of fucked up for us to have Elise on, and then you're like, Elise fucking sucks,
She
and we're
wouldn't stop
reading it,
talking.
and we're laughing about it, and that doesn't feel good. So don't do that. But if you have personal beef with me or Zach, and just hate one or both of us, and it's ruining the experience for you, and you don't want to leave a review because of that, you can write that in a 5-star review, and I will buckle up and take it. It's just you can't leave me a 1-star review and talk shit about me and expect me to be receptive.
Yeah, not if you want it read.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll read anything on the teleprompter if it's on 5 stars and not something that is morally wrong.
Yeah. Agreed.
So leave us those. They're fun.
Thank you to today's title sponsor, LMNT. I think I consumed on average 3 of these per day on the San Diego Trans-County Trail. I love them. They've got some really good stuff on the horizon. What's the date of the release?
March 9th. My birthday week. You haven't said happy birthday yet.
That's true. That's true.
Say it.
The 14th.
Say it.
I'll say it in
That's
5
Josh's
days.
birthday too.
Me and Josh have the same birthday? Pi
Yeah.
Day?
Yeah.
I knew this. I know I
Yeah.
knew this. I'm just so used to no one having my birthday.
Yeah.
Happy 25th birthday to Chaunce.
Oh my God. That is really kind. Thanks.
But yeah.
You want to, side note, if you ever want a booster about how old you look, I volunteer with these kids and they're 5th graders, and when you ask them how old you think how old they think you are, they the oldest I got was 29. So
Good
I
stuff.
love that.
they're really cute, and
I'm
they
gonna
don't
find-
even know they're stroking your ego in 5th grade. They don't know yet that they should tell you younger. At least I don't think so.
I still can't that used to stress me out when someone would be how old do I look? Because I'm I can't.
Oh, I wouldn't seek
I
that
can't
out. They
determine
just-
the difference between 40 and 60.
Yeah,
Still,
me either. And I wouldn't ever seek that out. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But they were just volunteering it. They were doing it to the ski instructors, and then I happened to be standing there. So
kids are so ballsy.
yeah, they don't know it's ballsy. They don't know that.
That's what makes it great.
Yeah.
I guess we can say it because it's launching tomorrow, I believe is the date. But the LMNT sparkling waters, the new sparkling waters, the ones that we've got here on the desk, plug for our YouTube, are available in apparently every store starting on March 10th. They're fucking good. They're really, really good.
Surely we must be able to say it because they're on the table.
Yeah.
If they're gonna be on the table,
I don't know if we were supposed to be putting them on the table that prematurely. I think now that they're going to be available to the public, we can confidently say, go out and get yourself some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's consider this a safe space, and let's consider that anyone from Big Element is not listening this long into an episode to make sure that we're kosher. Between us as friends, you guys getting the inside lowdown from us on the lowdown. Don't go share this publicly and be like, oh, Backpacker Radio told me prematurely and ruined the sponsorship for us. But these Element sparkling waters are freaking fantastic.
Yep.
And if you tried the last iteration they had that like we boasted about a year or two ago when I was like, this makes great backcountry margs, those ones definitely do make great backcountry margs because they're great to like cut with other things. These ones are really, really nice to drink on their own, even if you're not in the middle of like a 50K.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I feel like the other one, the older version, I think you had to really be an active person for it not to taste too salty, because we know from drinking Element frequently that the more you're exerting yourself, the less you can taste the salt. So those are perfect for that.
Yeah.
But if you're someone like me who's stuck in the corporate 9-to-5 grind and not getting out as much as I want, but still want the electrolytes, these are fantastic. Like, they are just the right amount where I can drink them at the desk and not be like, I feel bad about my own personal fitness because the amount of salt I can taste lets me know that I'm not active. These are they've mastered the middle ground is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Also, one more little Element shout out.
Yeah.
This water bottle I left here on Tuesday when I got home from the SDT whatever episode. I was like in bed. Where is that water bottle? I need my fucking electrolytes or I'm gonna die tomorrow. And I had this moment where I was like, I left it at the podcast, and the doom I felt. And I know I could have gone downstairs and made more, but I just wanted it to be in my bag so I could have just pulled it out and drank it. And when I got here today, it was the first thing I grabbed.
Yeah.
I fucking love this shit.
Yeah, no. That was how we got Jolly to come to the SDTCT podcast. Was I promised to give him a shitload of elements. He's like, all right, sign me up. And
He would have come anyway.
He didn't say no, but when we were on the trail, he was like so grateful for every packet that I gave him.
Oh, I should have brought that box in Tuesday then. I was going to.
I gave him a lot. I think
Okay.
him and his wife both are big fans. So
Nice.
Element is very good stuff, and
Yeah.
We're grateful for them to support the podcast.
Yeah. They're also very generous. Like, anyone in my friend circle has not had to buy Element since they've started sponsoring the podcast, because they send us enough and more where it's like, not only can we have it, but we can share it generously. Like, I brought a box of 3 packs of these seltzers that I'm just going to put straight into Elise's car. And it's like, I don't feel like I'm giving up something. I feel like they are so generous in what they send that we can share egregiously with our guests, which is really nice.
That is another perk of being a guest here on Backpacker Radio, is we always hook it up on the Element front.
It's true.
Elise is going to grab some.
I can attest.
Yeah.
On any front, any sponsor we have that sends us stuff in bulk, we give away.
We hook it up for sure.
So if it's Shady Rays, if it's Elements, if it's
and all the prior sponsors.
The Arctic bottle. You know, like, yeah, we love our sponsors. We love our past sponsors, but Element's been here for a long time, and we haven't started loving it any less.
And most importantly, it's a great product. Go to LMNT.com/Trek to get a free sample pack. That's 8 free packs with your next order. Do you have something you want to say, Elise?
Oh, I was going to say my personal shout out to Element is not like the lack of sugar. Like, I've tried other electrolytes, like especially as I've gone more into running. And sometimes they're just so sugary and you like it doesn't sit well with my tummy, to be honest. And so I really appreciate that theirs are like still delicious but not packed with sugar.
I'll give one extra little thing here too. Every now and then we got to give them a long little blurb here, but the extra thing I'll give, because this is a PCT tips and we're probably going to get a number of newer hikers listening to this, I was really turned off to electrolyte powders for a while because on the PCT I got sent one and I poured it into my bottle of water and I tasted it and I thought it was disgusting. And I did not go back to trying a powder until Element sponsored, and I thought, fuck, I've got to try a powder again because, like, if I'm going to talk about it, I got to make sure I like it. My error on the PCT was pouring the whole packet into my water bottle. what I need to stress is you do, and this seems so obvious, but you do not need to use an entire packet at once. It could seem like you should because you're opening it and then it's open. But what I like to do is I like to open it, pour a bit in my water, shake it up, taste it, add more if I feel like it needs more, or stop if I feel like it's good. Roll up the top of it that's open and stick it into one of the inner pockets of my fanny pack for when I refill my water again. There is like, this is like being like, you know, like too macho to admit that like you're tired, or too, you know, like you don't need to have the entire packet to feel like you're having what it's giving you. There is no shame in starting with a half a packet at a time. I do that when I'm not on trail and I'm going to the gym. It's been a long time, but when I occasionally do that, I'll use half a packet because I'm not at the point where I need that much. And you'll notice when you start to need more because you'll stop recognizing the taste. And you'll be like, man, this tastes just like water. And you'll pour a little more in and you'll be like, oh, there's that taste. And so your taste buds will tell you when it's too much. Listen to that. Because the worst thing you could do is get one of these and be like, I'm going to try this sample pack, dump the whole fucking thing into a water bottle while you're not even on a trail yet, taste it in between your coffee break at work and be like, fuck, this is so salty. They're full of shit. You know, we're not full of shit. You're just putting too much in. Start with a low amount and work up from there. And best case scenario, it lasts longer. Worst case scenario, you pour the whole thing at once and you think it sucks and you don't actually give it a shot and you miss out on all those electrolytes. And I'm speaking from experience because I did that and it was several years until by necessity I tried it again, and I feel like a silly girl for that. And I don't want you to make the mistakes I did because I care about you.
My golden ratio is a liter. I'll dump a full pack into a liter.
A full pack
Not
in a
me.
liter is fine.
Not
for
me.
me as well.
Sometimes
But,
this
yeah.
size, plug for the YouTube, Backpacker Radio on YouTube, this size, I have currently a half packet in here. And for my physical fitness levels at this exact moment, this tastes salty for me. And it tastes good. And that is all I need right now.
Also, plug for LMNT specifically is their packets are very conducive to only using part. Like they fold up well.
Yeah.
It works well. Like it stays put when you fold it back up.
Yeah, you could toss it in one of those little pockets in your fanny pack and it's good. Or if you're a girly who uses those super small rubber bands for like little hair things, one of those little rubber bands is great to tie around it.
Good. They got a nice, solid read there.
They deserve it every now and then. Sometimes we don't give them a long one, so every now and then they deserve it.
Super big thank you to our Chuck Norris Award winners on Patreon. That is Alex and Misty with Navigators Crafting, Alex Kindle, Andrew, Austin McDaniel, Bill Jensen, Brad and Blair from 13 Adventures, Brett Mullins, a.k.a. Cruzy, go to his cruise, Brian Alsop,
Fables,
Carl Lobster Hood, Christopher Marshburn, Clint Sittler, Coach from Marine Outdoors, by the way, I don't know if I've shouted this out before. Check out Coach from Marine Outdoors Instagram.
I was just thinking that.
It's so good.
His videos are so fun.
Yeah.
It's so good.
If you haven't followed Marion Outdoors on Instagram and seen him in his
TikTok
videos,
too.
he's got a very engaging personality.
We're gonna get him on the podcast at some point.
We should. He seems really fun.
I would love it. Yeah, Coach, if you're
check him
listening
out.
to this, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
You've got great content. Eric Casper,
Friendly Ghost,
Eric Hoffman, Ethan Harwell Dunn, Jillian Daniels, Greg Knight, Greg Martin, Griffin Hay, Would You Bring Me a Beer, Haley Buckingham,
Dallas,
Jason Kaiser, Kristen Bell, Luke Netjez, Matt from Arizona, Patrick Ciancialo, Randy Sutherland, Rebecca Braveheart, Rural Juror, Sawyer Products, The St. Louis Shaman, Timothy Hahn,
Solo,
and Tracy Trigger. Thanks to our guy Paulie at Old Man Murph's Coffee Roasters. Go to ommcr.com and get yourself some delicious beans. Always look forward to which It's Always Sunny clip he chooses for an episode.
Yeah. If you're, I don't know, maybe we're feeling generous at this part of the show because it's been a little quicker of an episode and we have more to put in. But if you are looking for a gift for a teacher, you have kids that go to school and you're getting a teacher appreciation gift, or if one of your parents likes coffee and you're getting them a little basket for a Mother's Day, Father's Day type thing, supporting something like Polly at ommcr.com and getting a bag from there rather than a Starbucks really is a very nice thing to do. He has edited our podcast episodes ever since day probably 6. We tried it for the first couple and it really wasn't
Not
good.
for us.
You know what? It's not something I excel at. And he has been here the whole journey. He is, apart from me, our longest person connected to Backpacker Radio.
Yeah, 100%.
And he has like been consistent and never something where we've had to be like, Paulie, where's this?
Paulie,
Ever.
He's like clockwork.
Yeah. And if you're getting something and need to do a teacher appreciation gift or do something where a bag of coffee makes sense to put into it, or you're a coffee drinker, yeah, you could go and you could buy a bag from Trader Joe's, or you could buy a bag from Starbucks. But I do think it is really nice when you can support people who put time and effort into making things that you love. And if this podcast is something that you love and coffee is something that you love, I don't know. He's been here the whole time, and he's an unsung hero because his face isn't on the pictures and his body isn't in these chairs. And so you don't really see him. But this podcast would not exist without him. And I just think, if you could spend the money somewhere, why not somewhere where it really means a lot?
Yeah. And
So.
I've known Paulie since he was a wee little lad. He's a great person.
Yeah.
I've gotten to meet Paulie, and he's great.
Yeah.
I think he gave me an apple once when I was too drunk in his car. So, guy's always looking out for you.
They were a staple at the Wisconsin
Oh my God,
road
they're
trip.
great.
Yeah. Paulie and Becca are both
Yeah.
great people. You can follow us on social at Backpacker Radio on Instagram and TikTok, at Backpacker Pod on X, Facebook.com/Backpacker Radio. You can follow Elise
At Elise Ott on Instagram and at Elise Ott on YouTube.
I see a lot of running content in your future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully more content in general, especially on YouTube. I had a rough year and took a hiatus, but I'm planning to come back.
That's it, right? I'm still trying to get our Teton Crest Trail videos out. I stopped when I didn't know where your footage aligned with my footage.
That was a tough,
Part of me is like, but I don't want to get rid of your footage because it's me hiking and I never get the videos of me hiking. And then I get overwhelmed and I haven't opened it since. But
fair enough.
I'm on YouTube at Juliana Chauncey when I finally finish those. Instagram Juliana_Chauncey, and my book Hiking from Home, a long distance hiking guide for family and friends. This one's especially helpful if it is your first hike. It will let you know some things very simply broken down, and it's also great to give to someone if they're like, you're doing what? To explain to them in a way that is not scary and demystifies it. And if you're doing the PCT for the first time this year, might I recommend
Pacific Crest Trails, which I co-authored with Carly Moray, former guest of the podcast. It's your psychological guide to hiking the trail, and being mentally ready for this, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is the most important preparation that you can do.
Yep.
Subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on YouTube.
Hi, Internet.
What's up, YouTube? And that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for listening, and happy hiking.
Bye.
Bye.